What's going on, everybody? TRAE4JUSTICE back in the building, coming at you guys with the opening statements for the Donna Adelson trial. I cannot say I'm fashionably late to this one because I'm just late. There's no other way to put it. Now, by the time you're watching this, Donna Adelson was already found guilty, but I saw a couple of comments where people were still interested in seeing it, so I figured I would go ahead and do a reaction to the Donna Adelson trial. So we're gonna start off with the opening statement, probably get into some testimony, but we're finally gonna figure out her part that she played in this entire thing. So you guys already know, if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Is the state prepared to give its opening statement at this time? Yes, Your Honor. You may proceed.
Here we go.
Good morning, everybody. Again, I'm Sarah Catherine Dugan. Georgia Kappelman and I are representing the state of Florida in this case. And this is the defendant, Donna Adelson. We see her here at the defense table, and this is how she appeared back in 2014 when this crime occurred 11 years ago. And the reason that we're here today is because this defendant, Donna Adelson, was part of a conspiracy to hire a hitman to kill her former son-in-law, Dan Markell. This murder was set into motion because back in 2014, this defendant's family had a big problem. And the big problem was Dan Markell. And the solution to that problem was the defendant's son, Charlie Adelson. Charlie Adelson was the solution because he had a girlfriend with connections to the type of people who were willing and capable of pointing a gun at a complete stranger and pulling the trigger.
That is insane.
The victim in this case, Dan Markell, was known as Danny to his friends and family. He was a loving father to 2 little boys, and he was a highly respected law professor at Florida State University College of Law. Tragically, on July 18th of 2014, Dan Markell was shot in the head in broad daylight in the driveway of his home in the Benton Hills neighborhood here in Tallahassee. The last day of his life began like any other day of his that summer. He woke up, he took his 2 young sons to preschool, and then he went to the gym to work out. After finishing his workout, he returned home, he pulled into his driveway, and he opened his garage. But look,
I'm sorry, this is eerily similar to the Lori Vallow Daybell trial. So I think it was Lori's niece, her ex-husband, like she actually tried to have him assassinated. And it was the same way. He went and dropped off his kids at school, went to a gym, and then when he got home, there was a car there waiting on him that opened fire on him. And when they fired at him, it was an attempted headshot, but they missed. That's how that situation played out. But unfortunately in this one, that's not how it happened.
that throughout his entire routine that morning, he was being followed by 2 hired hitmen who traveled all the way to Tallahassee from Miami for the sole purpose of taking his life. And like something out of a horror movie, when he pulled into his driveway, the killers pulled in right behind him. Moments later, Dan Markell's neighbor heard a gunshot, and he looked out the window and saw a light-colored Toyota Prius back quickly out of Dan Markell's driveway and speed away. The neighbor thought that was very...
Sorry, I was just gonna say, if you see it like it looks a little different, I'm using an iPad this time because I'm tired of my computer messing up. If that neighbor hadn't seen the Prius, who knows how long it would have taken for them to catch these 2 dudes. I'm sure they would have caught them eventually because these guys left the biggest trail imaginable. I mean, they stopped at an ATM like right after, I think, so they were pretty eager to be caught. But W neighbor, man.
Very unusual, very suspicious, so he waited a second to see if Dan Markell also backed out of his driveway or came out of his house.
Right.
And when he didn't see him, the neighbor got, a very funny feeling. And he went over to Dan Markell's open garage to see if there was anything wrong. And he found a gruesome scene. Dan Markell's car window, his driver's side window, was shattered. His glasses and his phone were on the ground next to his car. And Dan Markell was behind the wheel. He was unresponsive and moaning and terribly injured. The neighbor called 911 and law enforcement arrived to find Dan Markel with a gunshot wound to the head. He was taken to the hospital where he survived for about 14 hours before he was pronounced dead. Dan Markel was only 41 years old. And his little boys, who were deprived of their father after this murder, were just 3 and 4 years old.
Oh my goodness, man.
Law enforcement began to investigate to try to figure out who did this, who shot Dan Markel. The scene there, the crime scene, left no trace of the killers. There was no fingerprints, no DNA, no bullet casing, nothing was stolen. And so police began to suspect that this may be a professional killing. The little evidence that they do have sends them down 2 separate paths. One path is to track down that light-colored Prius that the neighbor saw fleeing from the scene.
Right.
And the other is to identify who was inside that Prius. And the other path relates to motive. Who in Dan Markel's life would hate him enough to hire a professional killer to kill him?
That's what makes it even crazier that they thought they would actually get away with this. The amount of evidence that proves that they despise Dan, like you couldn't miss it. So the fact that they thought they actually were going to get away with this in any way, shape, or form, I just honestly can't believe it, but they clearly believed it. Which goes back to my point, they don't watch any crime films or true crime content. They just do things, just mindlessly committing crimes out there. And I'm so glad they don't know what they're doing because they got caught in the end.
And after years of tireless investigation, both of these paths led directly to this defendant. So, first let's talk about the path involving motive. We'll go down both paths this morning. Police investigated Dan Markel's personal life to try to figure out a motive in this case, to see who might want him dead. And they learned that Dan Markel was entangled in a very nasty divorce with his ex-wife, who is the defendant's daughter, and his ex-wife is named Wendy Adelson. A review of the divorce case file reveals that Wendy Adelson had asked the court to allow her to relocate to Miami, where she was from and where her parents lived, with her children.
There's Harvey.
And Dan Markel's children.
Okay, honestly, I can't believe that he's actually here right now. The fact that the bailiffs have not tackled him through this seat and, escorted him to the cell, I have no idea how. I thought he got arrested on the same day as Donna, but I guess not. Because the fact he was going to get on the plane and, flee with her, wasn't that the plan? He was going to get on the plane and they both were going to run away to Korea or something like that. I don't know how he's here right now, but here he is.
In order to be closer to her mother, Donna Adelson, to her father, whose name is Harvey Adelson, and to her brother, whose name is Charlie Adelson. The victim, Dan Markel, as y'all can imagine, is adamantly opposed to this, to his children being relocated to Miami. He works here in Tallahassee. He's a law professor here in Tallahassee. This is where he lives. This is where his kids have been raised. He wants his children here with him. A review by law enforcement of Wendy Adelson's emails made it clear that her mother, the defendant, hated Dan Markel and was the relentless driving force behind Wendy's relocation efforts to South Florida. And, being a caring and involved parent is great, but the defendant's participation in her children's lives went beyond mere involvement or even meddling. Right. She was extremely controlling. She had very strong opinions about all the decisions in Wendy Adelson's life, whether it be about her career, her relationships, or even purchasing a home. And if Wendy Adelson...
Yeah, as soon as I heard that, like, she specifically picked out Dan, like, on a dating app. And once again, I completely understand, like, a parent just wanting the best for their kid. And maybe they give them pointers on, like, the best partner to look for. But actually being that close in the process, but just a little too close for comfort, in my opinion.
Would not do as the defendant wanted her to do. The defendant often then enlisted Charlie Adelson, her son, Wendy's brother, to solve the problem by getting him to kind of go to Wendy and persuade Wendy until Wendy ultimately agreed to do what the defendant wanted her to do. And while the defendant had always been controlling of her children's lives, the emails uncovered by law enforcement showed that this defendant was desperate.
By the way, I keep pausing super early. I'm sorry. I think this is Dan's dad, I believe. I saw like a thumbnail with him on it during like the victim impact statements. So I'm thinking that's his dad. No idea why I paused to say that.
Always been controlling of her children's lives. The emails uncovered by law enforcement showed that this defendant was desperate to find a way for Wendy and Dan Markel's children, her grandchildren, to be able to relocate to Miami. The defendant told Wendy that she deserved more than just a life teaching in Tallahassee without her family, and that Dan Markel was essentially holding her hostage in Tallahassee because of his job. During the divorce and custody battle, the defendant's email showed that she was heavily involved in Wendy's court case, even going so far as to draft and edit the documents that Wendy and her attorney were filing in court, and emailing Wendy instructions for her attorney on arguments her attorney should make and what her attorney should do. The defendant would guilt trip Wendy Adelson about how much time she and her husband, Harvey Adelson, were having to spend away from their dental practice to visit Wendy and the grandkids in Tallahassee, and complain about how the family was losing income, losing patients because of their constant absences from the practice.
Okay, so I'm confused. They're blaming Wendy for the fact that they have to come and visit from like a far distance. Why not just visit less often then so you don't lose money? I don't understand. So I'm saying this because these are the reasons that they felt justified to kill Dan. They felt like this was a justifiable reason. The fact that he moved their daughter so far away and it was like an inconvenience to them, so therefore he had to go. Now this can only make sense to a family that is just absolutely insane or just like thirst for control, because when you say it out loud, you hear how wild that is, right? But to them, it made complete sense.
And the defendant instructed Wendy Adelson that relocation to Miami was the most important priority in this divorce. And if it had to be
non-negotiable, there it is,
non-negotiable in the divorce. In June of 2013, the judge in the divorce case ended up ruling in Dan Markel's favor. And not only did the judge deny Wendy's relocation motion, but the judge dismissed it in a way that prevented Wendy Adelson from requesting the relocation again.
Wow, I didn't know about that.
So Wendy would not be permitted to move to Miami to be close to the defendant and her husband with the children at that time or ever, unless of course something happened to Dan Markel.
Yeah, the judge had no idea that in that moment, like, he was trying to keep a family together pretty much. But in the end, this decision is what ultimately led to the Adelson family just thinking, you know what, we're going to make the ultimate decision of just eliminating this dude because he's just too much trouble. It's not until you hear about the stuff that they were willing to do to get Dan out of the picture before this, you could see it was leading down a really dark path. But once again, nobody knew just how bad it was about to get until it got to this point.
After the judge denied the relocation motion, after that was denied, the defendant told Wendy Adelson in emails that Dan Markel has not beaten the Adelson family yet. She let Wendy know that the Adelson family is a team.
What is that name she called
and
them?
they are trying to win. Donna Adelson suggested in her emails several bribes to get Dan Markel to agree to relocation, like plane tickets, paying for her grandson's education, and the defendant even suggested offering Dan Markel a $1 million bribe to allow the relocation.
I said this in the last video. I'm pausing so much. I can feel that like I'm doing a little too much. I asked this question in the last video to everybody that is a parent. The idea, right, that somebody could simply give you $1 million and somehow that is enough to like replace how much you love your kid. Like, it's such a surface level way of trying to deal with the problem. And this is one of the points I'm making, where it's like, when you see that they were willing to go this far with it, you can start to see how the trajectory is going down that path of, well, look, if he's not going to be, and in their mind this is reasonable, if he's not going to be reasonable and take $1 million sum to get away from his kids, I guess the only option left is to hire hitmen. Makes sense.
To let Wendy move to Miami with the boys. And if the bribes didn't work, the defendant also suggested several ways that Wendy could threaten or bully Dan Markel into submission.
Oh boy.
The defendant told Wendy to aggravate Dan Markel like he aggravates you. And the defendant set out a plan of action that the defendant told Wendy would make Dan Markel absolutely miserable. And she's detailing all of these in her emails. So, for the plan of action, the defendant knew that Dan Markel was devoutly Jewish. So she came up with the idea for Wendy to pose Dan Markel's sons for pictures in front of a Catholic church.
Are you serious?
And then post the pictures to social media. And even announce on social media she was getting the children baptized, just to make it appear to Dan Markel that she was changing their religion.
Yet another point, another level they're willing to go to. They are also Jewish. They're playing around with their own beliefs. They're playing around with that just to dig at this one person. That's how much they hate this dude. The power of hindsight is crazy. It's going down that road, but a lot of times you don't know how far somebody is willing to go, especially with something like this. Like, how could you really know that they would take it that far? But my God, man, that is insane.
The defendant assured Wendy Adelson that this would all be an act to get Dan Markel to agree to let her move to Miami, but told Wendy Adelson that in order to pull off the stunt, she had to put on the acting performance of her life. The defendant said that it did not matter to her if Wendy had to dress her two little toddlers up in Nazi or SS uniforms, as long as she was able to get them to South Florida and show Dan Markel that he was not in control. The defendant repeatedly told Wendy Adelson that the rest of her life, meaning Wendy's life, as well as the defendant's life, Harvey Adelson's life, and Charlie Adelson's life, depended on Wendy Adelson and the boys being able to relocate to Miami.
Oh, this is so much darker than I ever imagined. I had no idea she said something like that. And do you know something else, like another layer to this I never thought about until right now? Her sons, okay, say if she went that route with it, right? Dressed them up as SS officers. Does she not think about the fact that her grandkids are like gonna grow up someday and they're gonna want to be like members of society, maybe have like a job, maybe go to college? Imagine an image is just out there and people find it of of them dressed up as SS officers. She doesn't even care about what their lives become after the fact, just as long as she gets the end result she wants. That is some evil stuff, man. That is beyond evil.
And the defendant said that she would never, never, never give up and never stop fighting for Wendy and the boys to be relocated to Miami.
Jeez.
And she never did. The evidence in this case will show you that this defendant's closest confidant was her son, Charlie Adelson.
Right.
She and Charlie Adelson talk multiple times a day, every day. And he was the person with whom she would constantly vent and complain to about Wendy's situation here in Tallahassee, having to live in Tallahassee with her sons. And she would often, the defendant would use very dramatic life and death terms to describe it. The defendant portrayed Dan Markell to Charlie Adelson as a crazy person who was impossible to deal with and was causing an extreme amount of stress.
Yeah, in the last video I was asking, like, has Dan and Charlie have they had some kind of fight or something? Like, the fact that he was so willing to go this far with it. I was thinking that they've had numerous fights, but now as I hear, Donna was the one that was feeding him information about Dan. Charlie is hearing, okay, you're messing with my mom, you're messing with my sister and my nephews. You know, in his mind, he probably thought that he was saving them by getting rid of Dan, which is just a really twisted way of looking at it. But how else do you get to this point where you're willing to do something like this?
To Donna Adelson and her husband, Harvey Adelson. And Charlie Adelson was also the person that Donna Adelson relied on to solve her problems. And her daughter and grandsons having to live 8 hours away in Tallahassee was a big, big problem for this defendant. And this defendant made it Charlie Adelson's problem to solve. And although the divorce between Wendy and Dan Markell was final a year before the murder, throughout that year, litigation is still ongoing, to say the least.
Right.
Each side is continuing to routinely file violations of the custody agreement, violations of the settlement agreement, and that continued right up until Dan Markell's death in 2014. A few months before the murder in 2014, Dan Markell alleged that the defendant, Donna Adelson, was disparaging him to his children. He was very worried about her trying to alienate him from his children. She was doing this by calling him stupid in front of the boys.
Wow.
And telling the boys that Dan Markell was trying to take them away from her.
And you can't really say like that didn't happen. I mean, she can, like none of us were there, but based on those emails that we read, it's difficult to say she probably didn't do that. You see her true feelings about him through those emails. She felt like that was just communication between her and Wendy. So that's her in like that's her speaking in her rawest form right there. It sounds pretty similar to what Dan is saying he heard her telling his kids about him.
Dan Markell asked the court to prevent this defendant from having unsupervised contact with her grandchildren. And this motion was still pending in court when Dan Markell was killed.
Yeah, that was it.
The murder of Dan Markell ensured that not having access to her grandchildren would never be a problem for this defendant.
I'm sure that was the last straw. As soon as she heard he was even attempting to do something like that, which like I said, the email showed that's her main priority is just to have the grandkids. I wouldn't be surprised if where we can track somehow that as soon as she found that out, there was a call made to Charlie and they immediately got this entire thing set up.
And what do you know? About 48 hours after Dan Markell was killed, after the shooting happened, Wendy Adelson and the little boys relocated to Miami.
No way.
Moved into the defendant's home with her, and the boys started school down the street. And just like that, their father was effectively erased from their lives, and the Adelsons' big problem had been solved.
There's no way Wendy's not a part of this. I'm sorry.
You'll hear during this trial that the Adelson family is a very tight-knit family. The defendant, her son Charlie Adelson, and her husband Harvey Adelson actually all worked together at their family's dental practice. The defendant, Harvey Adelson and Charlie Adelson are dentists there, and the defendant managed their accounts at the office. She was the details person. And this defendant, though, she managed much more than just the office for the Adelson family. She was the matriarch.
Right.
And a domineering one at that. She ran the office, the home, and the lives of the Adelson family members. After Dan Markel was killed, law enforcement interviewed Wendy Adelson. Wendy Adelson told police, and the police confirmed this, that she was at home having her TV fixed, at her home in Tallahassee, having her TV fixed at the time of Dan Markel's murder. And when police asked her, well, do you know anyone who would have a motive to kill Dan Markel? Wendy Adelson acknowledged that her family had a motive to want Dan Markel dead, and said that her parents had more reason to dislike Dan Markel than anybody else. At one point in the interview, police allowed Wendy Adelson to make a phone call to her parents to let them know that Dan Markel had been shot. And after she got off the phone with her mother, the defendant, Wendy Adelson said to police, well, they acted surprised, so that's a relief.
I mean, they're definitely not going to celebrate right there on the phone. For all they know, you got them on speaker in front of the cops. So they're just thinking this is all evidence. Let's play it calm. But I'm sure in that little phone call between her and Charlie, which I wish we had recorded, they probably celebrated. Like, they probably were crying tears of joy, which is why, like, that's how much they hated Dan.
And when asked by law enforcement if anyone could have killed Dan Markel on her behalf, she also told the police about her brother, Charlie Adelson. Wendy admitted to police that her brother, Charlie Adelson, had joked that he looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel as a divorce present, but decided to buy her a TV instead because it was cheaper. And what do you know? The same TV that Charlie Adelson bought his sister as a divorce gift would be Wendy Adelson's alibi the morning of the murder.
This is why I say Wendy has to either be involved or Charlie is just so egotistical that he gave the plan away just for fun. And after hearing like the 48 hours later they moved away thing, I'm pretty sure Wendy was in on it. Like, based on my opinion, I have to say that because she is an attorney. I have no idea if she'll stumble upon this video. But I believe that she was instructed, like the mom said, you need to act harder than you've ever acted in your entire life. I think that was a part of this situation as well. She's instructing her, you're going to have to really sell this. But what I think happened is that once she's in this interrogation room and there are two detectives staring her in the face, probably, examining her every move, the fear of what's happening, I think she just gave up her family. Was like, here, they probably did it. Look at them. They're the ones that more than likely did it. When they probably told her, hey, don't say it's us, say it's whoever, or just pin it on somebody else. I think at one point they were trying to say like, he was against the death penalty, so there were some people angry about that. They probably told her, hey, when you go in there, just say that. But once again, the stress of the situation, she just went ahead and gave up her family. Here, they did it. I can't even lie to you right now. They hired hitmen to do this.
An alibi, the TV repair appointment that was set up by her parents, Harvey Adelson and Donna Adelson, the defendant. So this path of looking into Dan Markel's personal life to see who would have motive to kill him leads law enforcement to the Adelsons, including this defendant, a woman who vowed to never, 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 never give up on getting her daughter and grandsons to Miami, and her son, Charlie Adelson, who told his family that he'd looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel, as Wendy said, was just a joke. But if Charlie Adelson was just joking about hiring a hitman, that joke, that stopped being funny when Dan Markel was actually killed by a hitman.
Yeah, either this is just a massive, massive coincidence, which we know it's not at this point, but either that was just going to be like a massive coincidence, or he was just able to see into the future that two random hitmen were just going to go and assassinate Dan. But once again, I believe that Wendy just outed her family in the end because she was afraid and didn't want to go to prison.
While the police are trying to investigate motive, They are simultaneously following that second path of the investigation by tracking down that light-colored Prius the neighbor saw fleeing from the scene.
Oh, yeah.
When law enforcement retraced Dan Markel's steps on the morning of his murder, they uncovered some very chilling surveillance video of that light-colored Prius fitting the description given by the neighbor, following Dan Markel into the Premier Gym parking lot and waiting for an hour while he was inside.
That is so
and then
creepy.
Following him home from Premier Gym back to Benton Hills. And these surveillance images, coupled with a massive amount of phone and SunPass records gathered in this case, help police track down the exact car used to commit this crime. But police still had to figure out, okay, we got the car, but who was in this car?
Right.
And why did that person kill Dan Markel? So law enforcement did a painstaking review of digital evidence in this case. And when I say painstaking, finding this Prius and finding evidence in these phone records was not an easy task. And it took much longer than your average investigation of a shooting, as you'll hear. But law enforcement eventually found that needle in the haystack. They found a number that communicated with the cell tower that services Premier Gym at the exact time when the Prius was there. And it was a number with a Miami area code. And that number belonged to a man named Sigfredo Garcia.
There he goes.
Law enforcement examined Garcia's call logs, and they saw that he was in frequent contact with another number that was present at Premier Gym that day. And that number belonged to a man named Luis Rivera, who is a longtime friend of Garcia, and he's also from Miami. They both are. Police then looked at Garcia and Rivera's phone records, which showed that their phones left Miami 2 days before the murder, so July 16th. They came to Tallahassee, and on the day of the murder, on the 18th, they followed Markel to Premier Gym. The phone data shows that these men turned their phones off just minutes before the murder took place, and their phones then stayed off.
Are you serious?
For about an hour or so after the murder, until they were well southbound to Miami, I think around the Gainesville area, the phone.
They really thought that was gonna keep them off the radar. Like, they thought that was so elusive to simply turn the phone off. Like, this is the equivalent of in a movie when the bad guy, when he finishes a phone call and just breaks the phone in half, and he thinks like it's untraceable after that. So glad they're bad at what they do.
It's turned back on. And then, once they got back to Miami, a bank's ATM camera caught them in the light-colored Prius at a bank drive-thru and caught both of the men in the Prius. So police figured out the identity of the two men responsible for following and killing Dan Markel. But they continued to look for evidence to explain why these seemingly random men came all the way to Miami.
And he even leaned up a little bit to make sure that we got a nice view of him. Once again, I'm so happy. So happy they had no idea what they were doing. All right.
So police figured out the identity of the two men responsible for following and killing Dan Markel. But they continued to look for evidence to explain why these seemingly random men came all the way to Miami. Came all the way to Tallahassee to kill a man that they'd never met.
Right.
What or who is the connection between the killers and the victim? The defendant in her emails obviously had demonstrated ample motive to want Dan Markel dead, but how do we get from these two random and hired killers to her? Well, those phone records that I talked about, they revealed that one of the shooter, Garcia's, most frequent contacts was a woman named Catherine Magbanois. She goes by Katie.
There she is.
The shooter and Magbanois have a long history of an on-again, off-again relationship, and they share 2 kids in common. This is Garcia and Magbanois. And lo and behold, these 2 paths of the shooter's car and the motive, they converge when law enforcement sees that Catherine Magbanois is also one of the most frequent contacts in the phone records of Charlie Adelson, the defendant's son. The same son that she had been nagging to death about his sister being stuck in Tallahassee. Law enforcement also learned that at the time of this murder, Catherine Magbanua was dating Charlie Adelson. So, Dan Markel was a problem the defendant needed to solve. The defendant's son, Charlie Adelson, was looking to hire a hitman to kill Dan Markel. Dan Markel is killed by a hitman. And who ended up being the hitman?
Apparently the guy she was dating right before, like that. I said this in the last video too. What a weird dynamic. And it also shows once again how low he was willing to go. Like, he didn't care how it got done, who it is that does it. He employed her ex-boyfriend to kill his brother-in-law. And I say these things out loud a lot of times because it shows you how crazy it is when you hear it. Like, this is what he actually did.
Man that killed Dan Markel? Someone with a close relationship to Charlie Adelson's girlfriend, the father of her children. So you can see how both paths, followed by investigators, charted the way to this defendant. Not only by looking into the motive, led law enforcement to the defendant because of her hatred of Dan Markel and her son's apparent efforts to hire someone to kill him, but also looking into that car fleeing the scene led law enforcement to the defendant through her son's girlfriend at the time. So 2 investigations, 1 conclusion. Law enforcement also tried to follow the money in this case, and that was a 3rd way that the evidence in this case pointed to the defendant.
Everything
Law
points to them.
enforcement reviewed bank records, employment records, DHS-MV records of all the suspects, and saw that in the months after the homicide, Garcia, Rivera, and Magbanua all acquired some big ticket items. Rivera and Garcia both bought motorcycles and cars. Magbanua got a breast augmentation surgery and later received a black Lexus sedan whose previous owner was Harvey Adelson.
Are you serious?
Catherine Magbanua's bank records were analyzed.
Are you actually serious right now? He's sitting in the courtroom right now. You provided the middleman that led to like killing your son-in-law with a car. Please tell me they are going to turn the camera to him. I need to see what his reaction is right now because this is crazy that he actually walked in here.
And there was no check ever written or matching cash withdrawal for the car or the breast augmentation.
Here we go.
Bank records also showed that Magbanua's account had a huge spike in cash deposits around the time of the murder. She deposited more money in her account in the 5 weeks after the murder than in the entire year before the murder. And
this is a man that just understands he is overcooked. Like, he has fully come to terms with it. He knows what's coming. That's it.
Cash deposits around the time of the murder. She deposited more money in her account in the 5 weeks after the murder than in the entire year before the murder. And this was during a time when there was no record of her being employed anywhere. And also, about 2 months after the murder, this defendant added Catherine Magbanua to the payroll at the Adelson family's dental practice. The one that she kept the accounts for, the defendant kept the accounts for. And the defendant started issuing her regular checks from their business account every 2 weeks, despite the fact that she did not work there at the time. Magbanua didn't work there. Law enforcement noticed that each one of the 44 checks that were written to Catherine Magbanua every 2 weeks over the course of the next 2 years after the murder were signed by this defendant, Donna Adelson. So, the money was talking, but what about the suspects? Law enforcement wanted to know what they were saying.
Right.
In examining the phone records in this case, law enforcement noticed a distinct pattern of communication surrounding important events or dates in this case. The phone calls always went from this defendant to her son, Charlie Adelson, and then from her son, Charlie Adelson, to his girlfriend, Catherine and then from his girlfriend, Catherine to the shooter, Garcia. and then back the other way, like train cars.
Right.
They only seem to touch the car directly in front and directly behind them. The defendant never calls her son's girlfriend, Catherine McBanois, or the shooter, or vice versa. Charlie Adelson never calls the shooter, or vice versa. So, if this is a murder for hire conspiracy, as law enforcement suspects, could it be that the defendant and Charlie Adelson are wisely insulating themselves from the actual shooters by having McBanois act as the middleman?
Right, they thought this was putting space in between them and the shooters. Like, forget a breadcrumb trail, they literally took loaves of bread and made an arrow out of them that points directly to them. Like, this is insane.
Law enforcement decided to launch an undercover operation designed to clarify who are the members of this conspiracy and how information was traveling within the conspiracy. Police applied for and received court authorization to listen in real time to the phone calls of Charlie Adelson and Catherine McBanois, the people in the middle of this train car.
Right.
And this is what's known as a wiretap. By this point, though, it was April of 2016. It took about 2 years to do this investigation to find out who was in the car and to get this wiretap going. So at this point, it's been 2 years, almost 2 years, since the murder. And at this point, in April of 2016, Charlie Adelson and McBanois are no longer dating. They'd been broken up for over a year. Catherine McBanois at this point is actually back together with Garcia. We heard they're on again, off again, and have these kids together.
Right.
Charlie Adelson has moved on he's had many other girlfriends at that point since McBanois. And Charlie Adelson and McBanois, though, they are still friends. They remained close friends since their breakup, and they're still in regular communication by April of 2016. Even though
I mean, that makes sense. He definitely doesn't want to burn any bridges with the person that he hired to assassinate his brother-in-law. I don't think he wants to leave with any bad feelings in between them with a situation as delicate as that. So it makes sense.
they're not together anymore. Rivera, the second hitman in that Prius, was in prison by this point, doing time on an unrelated charge. And the defendant is happily taking care of her grandkids all day, every day. So all the members of this conspiracy have presumably gone on with their lives, believing they've gotten away with murder. So what reason would they have to be discussing the murder at that point if police are listening in? They wouldn't.
Right.
So police needed to stage an event that would generate some conversation, some activity between the members of the conspiracy so they could see who the members of the conspiracy were. Their plan was to send an undercover agent posing as someone on behalf of Luis Rivera. He was the hitman who was incarcerated by April of 2016, to walk up to the defendant, Donna Adelson, on the street. There's a fly right in front of me that won't leave me alone. To walk up to Donna Adelson on the street and try to blackmail her for money. Law enforcement refers to this as a bump. So, this undercover agent posing as a blackmailer, and this is an actual picture from the surveillance cameras, that this is the undercover agent passing a piece of paper to Donna Adelson back in 2016. This undercover agent is posing as a blackmailer. He hands the defendant a piece of paper, and on the piece of paper is a news article about Dan Markel's murder. And written on the piece of paper is a phone number and the amount of $5,000. He tells the defendant that he knows the Adelsons are taking care of Katie, and he's basically there to blackmail to get more money out of them or out of her on Rivera's behalf, to even things out, because he knows they're taking care of Katie.
Right.
He never says Charlie Adelson's name or anything about Charlie Adelson to Donna Adelson. The defendant then puts the piece of paper in her purse and walks away without ever looking at the piece of paper, because she knew exactly what it was about.
She's shaking her head.
Then law enforcement listens in to see what will happen next. Will the defendant go straight to the police to report the blackmail? Or will she do something else entirely? And as suspected, based on the previously observed communication pattern, the first person that this defendant calls is Charlie Adelson, despite the fact that the blackmailer, never mentioned Charlie Adelson to her.
That is such a strategic play. They literally just threw out the bait and she took it immediately and did exactly what they assumed she was going to do, which is just call Charlie. Immediately call the person who put all of this into action for her. W strategy.
On that first call, you would think the first thing that Donna Adelson would say to Charlie Adelson is, "Oh my God, it's so crazy. Some man just came up to me, handed me an article about Danny's murder, and he's demanding money from us."
Right.
But she never says any of that. In fact, the defendant never says Dan Markel's name at all. Instead, she tells Charlie Adelson that she needs to talk to him in person about some paperwork that was just delivered to her.
I never considered how suspicious is that as well, that you're trying to be so low-key about it. That is even more suspicious. That points the finger directly at her. Because if you really didn't have anything to do with it, you would just say, yeah, related to what happened with Dan, like some guy just handed me a piece of paper. Oh man, she thought she was covering her tracks by not directly saying it, when it actually made it more suspicious.
She said that it involves the two of us.
There it is.
And that he should know what she's talking about. The defendant and Charlie Adelson continue talking, and she says that he should bring cash to their meeting. And she says, the TV is probably about 5.
The TV.
The defendant tells Charlie Adelson that the man who approached her mentioned an ex-girlfriend. The defendant never says which ex-girlfriend of Charlie Adelson.
Right.
She never says Magbanwa's name to Charlie Adelson in that phone call. She only says that the blackmailer mentioned an ex-girlfriend. Charlie Adelson never asked his mom, "My ex-girlfriend? Which ex-girlfriend?"
He knew right away.
He never asked that. Because as the evidence will show, he didn't need to. He knew the TV is probably 5 meant that she was being blackmailed about Danny's murder, where the TV was the alibi, and he knew that the ex-girlfriend in question was the only ex-girlfriend that he had solicited to find a hitman for him, Catherine Magbanwa. And we know that because after this call with his mother, the defendant, Charlie Adelson, calls Catherine Magbanwa. He does not call his most recent ex-girlfriend or even the one before that. He calls Catherine Magbanwa. And his call to Catherine Magbanwa is the only call he makes to any ex-girlfriend after getting the information from his mother that the blackmailer mentioned an ex-girlfriend. And he hadn't dated her for about 1.5 years at that point. And although they threatened to do it very often, neither Charlie Adelson nor the defendant ever reported this attempted blackmail to the police.
Why not just report it?
You all will hear the calls between the conspirators, and as you listen to these, you'll notice that they're being very cautious about what they say. It's apparent that they're being very careful about the words they use because they are all immediately suspicious that law enforcement could be behind the bump. Law enforcement could be the person who came up to them on the street and gave her the paperwork, and law enforcement could also be listening to their conversations. After Charlie Adelson's first call to Catherine Magbanwa, Charlie Adelson then meets up in person with his mother, the defendant, and in person she gives him the paperwork that this blackmailer gave to her and makes it Charlie Adelson's newest problem to solve.
You know, it's insane that they met up as such a cliche undercover spy kind of area. They could have met anywhere else. They literally have a house in this city. She could have said, meet me at home, and then they talk about this within the confines of their own house. They decided to meet in an open area. Like, you can't make this stuff up. They decided to meet on a beach where there are just infinite angles to get a clear shot of them. And to make it even more cliche, they both have on shades. How much do you want to bet she even slid the document over to him, like on the table, as if this is once again like some kind of spy movie? They thought they were going to get away with it.
Person, she gives him the paperwork that this blackmailer gave to her and makes it Charlie Adelson's newest problem to solve. And naturally, what does Charlie Adelson do? He goes to the next train car, Catherine Magbanua. Charlie Adelson and Catherine Magbanua meet in person at a restaurant called Dolce Vita in Miami. And while they sit at their table in this busy, noisy restaurant, an undercover FBI agent is sitting at a table nearby with a camera hidden in a bag, recording the conversation. So this is an image
in public once again
from that video recording the conversation. And in the recording, we hear Charlie Adelson discussing whether the man who walked up to his mother could be an undercover police officer, or he could be someone trying to legitimately blackmail them. And if it's a blackmailer, is it somebody who just saw a way to make a quick buck? Or is it another situation entirely, which would be much worse for the Adelsons? Is it actually someone with inside information about Donna Adelson's role in the murder of Dan Markel, and that person could tell police what they know? Charlie Adelson reassures Katie, Catherine Magbanua, that if it is the police, that is a good thing. Charlie Adelson thinks that, hey, if it's the police, that means the police don't have enough evidence to charge anybody. You know, they're just fishing for information.
That's a good thing.
And in fact, Charlie Adelson tells her, hey, if they had any evidence, we would have already gone to the airport.
That literally confirms everything I've been saying. They don't watch any crime-related stuff at all. He's just saying things. It would be better if it's the actual police as opposed to some random guy, which I'm surprised he's not saying, hey, can we get your current or maybe ex-boyfriend to assassinate this guy as well. I'm honestly surprised he never recommended that.
It's important to note that at the time of this conversation at Dolce Vita, no arrests had been made in this case. And the only thing that police had released to the public at that point was a photo of the light-colored Prius that fled the scene. Police knew at that point that it was Garcia and Rivera who were in the Prius, but the public didn't know that yet. So that fact is interesting in light of some of the things that Charlie Adelson started saying to Magbanua. He starts giving her several analogies involving rental cars being used to commit crimes. He reassures her that the police can't prove a person committed a crime just from someone's DNA being in a car that was used in a crime. In order to prove someone committed a crime, you have to be able to put the person at the scene of the crime at the time it was committed. So he's trying to reassure her that even if they identify who rented that car that fled the scene, they still would not have enough evidence to hold anybody responsible for this murder.
Okay, so a lot of you watch a lot more of this type of content than I do. Some of you are even attorneys. Is that how it works? You can't be pinned to something just based on like your DNA? That sounds pretty important to me. Like if they find your DNA on a gun or something and they assume that you're the one that did it, but they don't know for sure if you were in the area. To me, that doesn't sound right. But once again, feel free to let me know. Doesn't sound right to me though.
Charlie Adelson also says that crimes are tough to prove unless someone actually witnessed the suspect commit the crime, or the suspect confesses to the crime, or a suspect is caught on a wire talking about the crime.
Would you look at that?
So he's trying to reassure her about the lack of evidence in this case, about no witnesses, and trying to let her know that hey, as long as we all stay quiet and nobody confesses or gets caught talking on a wire,
Right.
then we don't have anything to worry about.
He checked one of his own
And
boxes.
he begins educating Catherine McBanois about how blackmail works. He tells her that, hey, if this is a guy who knows information, there's 2 ways of dealing with this guy.
Oh boy, here we go.
We could call the police, but then the guy blackmailing us could be charged, and then that blackmailer is going to start talking, and the police are going to be asking questions about what happened. The other option is to pay the blackmailer, but let him know that this is just a one-time thing. And we'll try to scare him off by saying, if you come around again, we'll go to the police. Charlie Adelson gives McBanois very precise instructions on how to deal with the blackmailer. He tells her to call the blackmailer and tell her that my friends, meaning the Adelson family, have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm just going to give you this money as charity. But don't contact these people again or they'll go to the police. And Charlie Adelson said he would give McBanois the $5,000 to pay off the blackmailer who approached his mother, except that he's concerned that this guy won't go away. He'll get that $5,000 and then he'll just keep coming back for more money. We'll see him as an easy target. And so Charlie Adelson then offers that the best solution might be to have the blackmailer killed, and that he's willing to pay whatever it takes. He says, so help me God, if they F with my family, it's going to be Nazi shit, because this will be done.
What's up with
Katie, I don't care.
What is up with the Nazi stuff? What does that even mean, by the way? And they got all of this on wiretap. We're going to hear him say these exact things. Like, this is crazy. He said, it's right here on the screen. He said this. I'm going to have to blur some of this out.
Care what I spend. And after hearing that Charlie Adelson wants someone killed and is willing to pay whatever it takes to get it done, McBanois then asked Charlie Adelson to help her out. And Charlie Adelson reassures her she'll be taken care of and reminds her she's on salary at the parents' dental practice. After Charlie Adelson finishes this meeting where he's getting McBanois to then solve the problem of the blackmailer, he gives her they say goodbye. He gives her a big hug that's captured on camera outside by the FBI. And then Charlie Adelson immediately calls the defendant to let her know everything's fine and he has handled the situation. He does this using some pretty obvious code words that you'll often hear these conspirators use to mask the meaning of what they're talking about in case law enforcement's listening. McBanois then, also using code words, calls Garcia, and she tasks him with calling the number on their paperwork and finding the identity of the blackmailer. And in the series of recorded calls that y'all are going to hear later this week, you'll hear these conspirators talking and using words like TV, relationship advice, false leads, listings, patients, properties, clients, rap songs, CDs, pigs, all these terms that are obviously normal words, but they're used in context that, if you're listening to the conversation, don't make sense.
It's amazing how just like that, Garcia was put back into the picture. Like, they already figured out he was in the car, but by him calling that number, it just tied everything together. Like, everything came full circle as soon as that phone call was made. Oh yeah, all of these people are connected. It is the family that did this. Dude, these are next level strategies by law enforcement right now. I think it's FBI, like, they're playing on a whole other level.
All these terms that are obviously normal words, but they're used in context that, if you're listening to the conversation, don't make sense.
Right.
So after that undercover operation was over in 2016, Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia are arrested, and they're charged with the same charges before y'all in this trial. Luis Rivera, who was the second person in that Prius, cut a deal with the state and told law enforcement the truth about the murder of Dan Markel and the people responsible for it. He told police that he was hired by his longtime friend Garcia to help kill Dan Markel.
I really hope the deal that he got wasn't that he gets out anytime soon based on this. Like, I know he wasn't the one that actually pulled the trigger, that was Garcia, but I really hope that's not the case, because she just said he cut a deal basically cooperating, like giving them information on Garcia, Catherine, probably Charlie, probably got some kind of incentive for it, but I really hope that's not the case.
Rivera described how Garcia told him that this was a job that Magbanua was able to get for them, and it was in Tallahassee, and it paid $100,000, and that Rivera was going to get a third of the money. Rivera said that during the trip to Tallahassee, Garcia had a piece of paper with a picture of the man that they were hired to kill and some handwritten notes. And during that trip, Rivera said that the first call that either of them made after the homicide was from Garcia to Magbanua, where Garcia told her that the job was done, and Magbanua assured them they would get their money the next day.
She's nodding her head.
They did.
Is that a good look that the defense attorney is basically nodding like she's telling the truth? She's really, she clearly is telling the truth, but is that a good look for the defense to just, yep, believe that every single thing she's saying right now, she's completely on point? I don't know if that's such a good look for the defense, but okay.
That Magbanua brought the money the next morning to Rivera's home. And law enforcement checked cell phone records, which corroborated Rivera's information. Law enforcement told police that the money that he received from Magbanua the next day was packaged in a very unusual way. The money was basically in stacks of 1,000. Each stack was made up of $100 bills that were then stapled together. And after
stapled?
Each stack was stapled together of 1,000. And after learning this from Rivera, Magbanua was arrested, and that was in October of 2016. During this trial, you'll hear that the Adelson family had access to a lot of cash because their family gave cash discounts at their dental practice. Like if you paid in cash, you would have to pay less than if you paid on a card or check.
I'm sorry, is that like a common thing? I don't know if that's like, they may have something else they need to look into there. Why are they offering an incentive to pay with cash? I mean, feel free to let me know if that's a common thing. That may just be me looking too deep into things and like, yeah, businesses do that all the time, but they are incentivizing customers to just give them a bunch of cash, and you see what they're doing with it. He has them, she just said they're stapled together. They just keep cash stapled together. Okay.
They kept the cash that they received in stacks, and they stored it in a safe. Law enforcement also learned from Charlie Adelson's friends that Charlie Adelson had a very unusual practice of keeping his money in these $1,000 stacks that were stapled together, just like the money Rivera received. And over the last few years, since the 2016 arrests of Garcia and Rivera in May, and then of Magbanua in October 2016, law enforcement has not stopped working on this case. 3 years after Garcia's arrest, in 2019, he was convicted at his trial. Law enforcement continue, though, to gather evidence. They continue to interview people who may possibly have information and to clarify all of these recordings the FBI did that couldn't be clearly heard.
Right.
And thanks to their tireless efforts, in March of 2022, Charlie Adelson was indicted.
Nice.
2 months later, in May of 2022, Catherine Magbanua's case went to trial, and she was convicted. During Magbanua's trial, Catherine Magbanua took the stand, and she insisted, this is back in May of 22, she insisted she had no knowledge of the murder. The Adelsons must have just gone around her to hire the hitman directly. That's what she testified to.
Yeah,
her
absolutely.
defense team insisted that the state's theory was correct about every co-conspirator except for her, for Catherine Magbanua.
What do you know?
That Catherine Magbanua was just this victim of bloodthirsty and desperate prosecutors and investigators,
right,
and just a victim of this set of circumstances that appeared to prove one thing, but was actually, the truth was something else entirely.
how would it be that somehow they knew Garcia and Rivera? Because there's no way to link the Adelson family with them. They can't even say like, oh, they came to the office one time to get their teeth fixed and they just really hit it off and they became cool. They've probably never been within 50 feet of each other just in everyday life. The idea that she said, yeah, I have no idea how they got this stuff sorted out. They just decided to go put a hit on his brother-in-law. There is no way her attorney didn't take on the case just for practice. I'm so serious. Her attorney took her case just to practice and see how he could fare against all odds. Because how do you think that's going to get you out of this? All right.
However, after being convicted at trial and sentenced, Magbanua finally decided to testify about the plot to kill Dan Markel, and admitted that she was the connection between the Adelson family and the killers hired to kill Dan Markel. Magbanua testified in Charlie Adelson's trial in October of 2023 and said that Charlie Adelson wanted to hire someone to kill his sister's ex because his mom was stressed out over all of the problems his sister was having with her ex-husband. Magbanua said Charlie painted a picture that Wendy's ex was this terrible man causing his mom so much stress that she couldn't sleep or eat. Magbanua agreed to help him and ended up recruiting her children's father, Garcia, and also Rivera to kill Dan Markel.
So weird.
She says that the night of the murder, she went to Charlie Adelson's house to pick up the payment for the murder. And when she arrived, Charlie Adelson said that his parents had just been at the house and that Charlie Adelson had the money for her there.
Wait, sorry, did she say this was the same night that it happened? Okay, hold on.
Stressed that she couldn't sleep or eat. Magbanua agreed to help him and ended up recruiting her children's father, Garcia, and also Rivera to kill Dan Markel. She says that the night of the murder, she went to Charlie Adelson's house to pick up the payment for the murder. And when she arrived, Charlie Adelson said that his parents had just been at the house.
That is so shady. I mean, it's confirmed Donna was a part of this. Harvey's just sitting in here right now. No idea how the bailiffs have not tackled him and put him right beside Donna right now. I have no idea, but I do think him and his daughter 1000% a part of this. They were at his apartment the night that it happened, and magically he had all the money. He had all the money to give her too.
And that Charlie Adelson had the money for her there. Law enforcement was able to corroborate this claim with phone evidence showing that Donna Adelson went to Charlie Adelson's house the night of the murder. Magbanua then spent the night with Charlie Adelson that night, and the next morning, on July 19th, he put the money that she was to divide up into the trunk of her car. Magbanua says several things about the money stood out to her. She said it was stapled together in stacks of $100 bills and that it was damp like wet. She then delivered the money to Garcia and Rivera afterwards. When Catherine Magbanua said that when she asked Charlie Adelson about the money being damp, he said that his mother the defendant had actually washed the money, and that she and Charlie Adelson kind of laughed about the fact that the defendant had literally washed the money.
I cannot believe this. I cannot believe it. Somebody told me in the comment that this happened and I completely forgot. They said that she washed the money. Please tell me this is because she heard the term money laundering and thought it meant to simply wash money, like, oh, this is how we wash our prints or our DNA off the money. That is insane. And did you hear that? Like, they're literally having a moment like at the end of a sitcom where they crack a joke and just stare at each other as the crowd is laughing. That's what they think this is right now. He's paying her for a hit that he just placed on his brother-in-law, the father of his two nephews. Pure evil.
So it couldn't be traced. In Charlie Adelson's trial, Charlie Adelson took the stand, and he testified that Magbanua, Garcia, and Rivera were all in on this crime together, but that the Adelsons had nothing to do with it. They were the innocent
What a twist.
ones. He crafted an elaborate story in which Garcia and Rivera came to Tallahassee on their own, killed Dan Markel without his knowledge or his family's knowledge, and then these killers colluded with Magbanua to play he and his mother for fools and extort money out of them.
Makes no sense.
And for many reasons, which will be revealed to y'all in this trial, Charlie's interpretation of the facts was not reasonable to believe.
I mean, understandably, that makes no sense. If anything, they wanted the money from him, from Charlie, that's the story that he's saying. They wanted the money from him. Why would they travel 8 hours to another city to do something to Dan and like track him down? If Charlie's the one that has the money, if anything, they would just slap him around and just say, all right, dude, give us the money or else we will hurt you. You got to think about this as well. If somebody is extorting someone, they're probably in a desperate mindset. They're not going to spend money or resources to travel 8 hours to go and do a hit on somebody or to like just do something to somebody to prove a point when you're the one that has what they want. Oh my gosh, man. Once again, another Hail Mary. My attorney is just practicing to see if he can make something happen.
He was convicted.
There you go.
Charlie Adelson was convicted in November of 2023. And within hours of his guilty verdict, this defendant began to plan to flee the United States to a country that she could not be extradited from.
Wow.
In order to avoid being arrested for Dan Markel's murder. The defendant on her phone researched countries that did not have extradition treaties with the United States, and she applied for an emergency visa to Vietnam. She was overheard planning to put her money in trust for her grandchildren, and she and her husband purchased one-way tickets with a fast-track emergency visa to Vietnam.
Her and her husband purchased one-way tickets. How is Harvey not arrested? It's blowing my mind because I don't get it. I assumed that all of them, like pretty much the whole family, had gone through the trial at this point, because this is the first Adelson family member trial that I've seen. I didn't know about any of this stuff until you all told me about it, and I've been going down this rabbit hole ever since of trying to like understand the whole thing. It is full of so many crazy twists and turns. They're probably still looking into it. He had a one-way ticket. Is that normal? Like for somebody to just tell their spouse, let's just go to another country right now and never come back and like put all of our money in trusts and stuff? It's not exactly normal. You would think, oh, they probably talked this out and we're running together. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
And Vietnam does not have an extradition treaty with the U.S., as she would have learned from her searches. And just days later, she was stopped by law enforcement on the jetway in Miami International Airport, where she was boarding her one-way flight to Vietnam. And she was then charged for her participation in the murder of Dan Markel.
There he is.
After the defendant was charged, law enforcement received information from women who said that the defendant, Donna Adelson, was offering them bribes in exchange for false testimony in this trial. They said Donna Adelson promised them money, housing, veneers, prescription drugs, if they were willing to testify that Catherine McManua told them a completely different story about the crime than the one that she would be testifying to.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just thought about that. Within that, the stuff that she was using to try to bribe them to like lie, she offered veneers. Okay, so her son, who was a dentist, he's in prison, so he couldn't do the procedure. Like the only one who is a dentist, I don't know if he's currently a dentist or if he's retired, but either way, the only one trained to do something like that is her husband. Does that not somehow loop him into it? Like she's already saying that he'll do this on my behalf. How is he not in prison? Okay, that's how that ends.
One informant was even able to show law enforcement a script, a question and answer session for a direct examination in trial that Donna Adelson herself wrote, and that Donna Adelson wanted this informant to memorize and come into court and perjure herself by reciting it to you here in trial.
She's cooked. I'm sorry. It's over.
Please listen to all of the evidence that y'all are going to see and hear in this trial. I know it's been a long week already, and we have a lot of evidence for you in this case, but when you do, you will see that this defendant conspired with her son, Charlie Adelson, who solicited his girlfriend, Catherine McBanois, to get this murder done. And then this defendant paid her with cash, with checks for the job once it was completed. The defendant acted in furtherance of this murder plot that went beyond just thinking about it or just talking about it.
Right.
And these acts make her guilty as a principal to first-degree murder, just as if she was the one pulling the trigger in the garage herself. And while the defendant's choices helped solve a problem within her family, they came at a very high price. She took the life of a loving father of 2 little boys and caused a lifetime of grief for Dan Markel's loved ones. And at the conclusion of the evidence in this case, you will be convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that this defendant is guilty. And at that point, we'll ask you for the only verdict that does justice in this case, which is a verdict that this defendant is guilty as charged. Thank you.
Briefly approach.
And they definitely did. They definitely found her guilty. As soon as they get into the emails, how could you say, no, that's a misunderstanding. She doesn't hate him. She would never want this to happen.
Everyone can be seated. Is the defense prepared to give its opening statement at this time?
Yes, Judge.
You may proceed.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go.
Your Honor.
No idea what they could say.
Good morning. My name is Jackie Fulford, and I, along with Mr. Zellman, represent Mrs. Adelson, and I don't think you've heard my voice yet. Well, I'm going to try and talk slow, because if I don't, the court reporter's going to scream at me. I just want to start by saying this. Remember, during the course of the proceedings, that the state always gets to go first. But the defense has a right to be heard too. So please keep an open mind until you hear from us as well. You just sat through an opening statement. The presentation was pretty cool. I'm old-fashioned, so I don't use that kind of stuff, but for an hour you heard about this killing. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And you heard an awful lot about why they think Donna Adelson has the motive to kill Danny Markel. And you heard an awful lot about what other people did in this case. But not a single piece of evidence was discussed that shows that Donna Adelson planned this, hired anybody to do this, or intended that this happen. And I just want you to be mindful that when we're at the end of the case and the judge gives you the instructions, and he gives them, I won't do that. When he gives you the instructions, he's not going to give you an instruction that says the state has to prove motive. He's going to give you elements of each offense, and he's going to say that each element of each offense has to have actual evidence to prove that.
Once again, when they get into these emails, but also the code talk, what's that about? About the TV About 5 and all that kind of stuff. It's very clear that she was a part of the process in some way. Why do they have codes already set up to like discuss the situation? This is a Hail Mary from the defense. She's just trying stuff, maybe just trying to see how well her charisma can get across to people, because she knows that this is not really going to work. Here we are right now.
Not motive. Actual evidence that those things happened. We're going to have a long trial, and I know you all are kind of prepared for that, at least in your mind. You know it's going to happen, and it's going to be long, and we're going to have days. And you're going to hear a lot of evidence and phone calls and text messages and emails, but I want to ask you to never, ever stop thinking for the 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks that we're here about why it is we are really here. Not just because Donna Adelson is on trial, but because 2 men killed Danny Markel. Don't forget Danny. He was an amazing professor. He was very well educated. He had 2 degrees, I think, from Harvard, one of them from law school there. He was a professor. He had students. He was very well respected by his peers, his colleagues. He traveled all over the place to talk at conferences. They wanted him there for him to come and speak. Very, very intelligent man, and I can't say I know because I never met him. I wish I had. But I know he had to be proud of all that he had achieved. His career was important to him.
Right.
Him continuing to educate himself so that he could get tenure at the law school as a professor. He worked very hard. He earned a lot. What he did not earn was for somebody to do this to him.
That's true.
You're going to hear that Wendy Adelson, the daughter of my client, was married to Danny.
I'm sorry, before she gets any further, I'm starting to see she's going down the path so far, appealing to the emotion. And she's not arguing that this should have happened. So she's trying to at least get that part across. And you heard she said this is about these 2 men that did this. So she's just trying to say, listen, you got that part right. Donna, her part in this, though, this is all wrong completely. So everything was right just up until this point.
And I'm not trying to be informal when I say that. I respect Mr. Markell, Dr. Markell. But because so many people in the trial are going to refer to him as Danny, I'm going to do that if that's okay. But I don't mean any disrespect by doing that. More important to Danny Markell than anything in the world were his little boys. He had 2 little children when this happened to him. A 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. When the divorce first happened, when Wendy moved out, he did not want the divorce. That was in 2012. And they squabbled during the divorce, they did. Each side argued for their side. The other side argued for their side. That's what happens to divorce. Divorce is not fun. Divorce is not usually friendly. Some of us have had friendly divorces, but not everybody does. And a lot of things were said. But moving forward to 2014 is where we're going to concentrate on, because that's when Danny was killed. And in 2014, with these little boys that he had, the divorce had been over for a year. Relocation, the opportunity, even discussion about it, ended. On July 31st, when the final judgment was entered, relocation was over. The state told you that. The court denied it with prejudice.
Why did
she could never raise it again. Nobody was fighting anymore.
I wonder why she put air quotes on that. She said the court made a judgment on it. I don't know if she's trying to say there was some other things at play that led to that, but I don't know if you saw that. I'm going to go back a little bit, but she put it in air quotes for some reason.
Relocation was over. The state told you that. The court denied it with prejudice. She could never raise it again. Nobody was fighting anymore about where these little boys would be. Danny advocated for not only himself in the divorce, he advocated for his children. They are an important part of his life. He wanted as much time as he could get with them. They ended up splitting the time equally between Wendy and Danny. Their schedules changed a little bit on how they worked that out, but it was 50%. This bug is driving me crazy too. What in the world is that? Sorry. He continuously, from the time Wendy moved out till the time that he was killed, spent as much time as he could get with his children. He loved being with them. If it wasn't his time to have the children, he would go to their little preschool and spend time with them there.
Wow.
He wanted to talk to them on the phone as much as he could. You guys are way younger than me, so maybe you don't even know about this, but I guess there was a thing called Skype. I don't even know if it still exists, but
yeah.
I guess it's like FaceTiming, but doing it on your computer. And that's how he wanted to talk to his kids, so that he could see them when he wasn't with them while he spoke to them. Now, at 3 and 4, it's kind of hard to wrangle them to sit down in front of a screen. So Danny came up with a really good idea. When he Skyped the children, it would be, most of the time, after the kids had had their dinner and had their baths, where they're kind of calmed down, they're not in their little running around state, and he would read bedtime stories to them. When he didn't have his little kids, he still wanted to know that when the children went to bed, they didn't forget about Daddy. And he made sure that didn't happen. These kids are not deprived of their father. Their father was brutally taken from them.
Man, I did not expect this kind of angle right now. I honestly didn't. Like, the stuff she's saying about how this never should have happened, absolutely true. But it's also kind of padding what the prosecution is saying, and it's showing how cold-blooded it is that Donna would even go through with something like this. She even said it herself. Dan loved his kids. The fact that she was just okay with sending some hitmen his way, it really shows just how cold-blooded her and her family really can be. So I see what she's trying to do. I'm glad the jury saw through this and they thought, yeah, this is really messed up. He didn't deserve this. So why did your client send a hitman his way? You know, I'm just glad they saw through it.
Not just when they were 3 or 4, or 5 or 6, or 7 or 8, but up into their teens. They lost the opportunity because someone took it from them to grow up with a father, to have his involvement and influence in their lives, to talk about what he did as a kid and share his experiences. All of that was stolen from him. That's very important. This Skyping that he did with his kids, Mrs. Adelson, when she had the little boys, actually arranged so she could do that with him. And she would keep the kids in front of the screen while he talked to his children. You've heard a lot about how she hated him. She said some ugly things during the divorce. Pretty foul things, actually. But you're going to learn through the evidence why that was occurring and how she was actually interacting with Danny. They're two very different things.
Yeah, once again, I don't know how she can go that route with it. Listen, I'm sure that a lot of people that don't like each other, you could sprinkle in some cordial moments like in between the chaos. I don't think that's uncommon. I really think that's something that happens a lot. Most people, unless you're like an outright sociopath, you don't have the stamina to just maintain rage at all times. So I'm sure they had some nice little moments between the two of them throughout the time they knew each other. But that does not mean she did not send a hitman or two of them. Her setting up Skype calls does not prove her innocence.
I want to talk to you now about my client, Donna Adelson. She is a normal person, just like all of us. At the time that this happened, she was 64 years old, married to her husband, Dr. Adelson, a dentist. Now they've been married 54 years. It was somewhere in the 40-year range when this happened 11 years ago. And she got up in the morning and went to work, not at her and Harvey's business, like you were just told. She went to the business owned by her son. Every morning they got up and they went to work. She did the books, she kept the books, she greeted patients, she got charts out. At 7:30 every morning, she was there and organized and had everybody ready to go because they had a little staff meeting. So everybody could know what to expect, what patients they were going to see, what they were going to take care of. She was there working, sometimes late into the evening, just like all of us. She's a normal person. People who know Donna will tell you that she is not the person that the state is portraying her to be. She's kind, caring, loving. She cares more about people than she does about herself. Now, what happened on July the 18th of 2014? You've heard the state describe it, but I want to talk about it for a minute.
Is she gonna bring Donna up here?
the state is going to be able to prove to you some of the things they were talking about.
Oh my gosh, is this just gonna be like a picture of like Donna next to him or something? And this is gonna be like the crazy moment. Maybe the night that him and Wendy got married, he took a picture with his mom-in-law, and so it's like, oh look, they were happy together. Is it? Oh boy, okay.
Can everybody see it okay? No? Oh,
It is arranged the easel. Just raise your hands and everyone can see the easel clearly. Thank you.
Because she can't use evidence.
so the state told you that he got up every day, just like he normally did, on July the 18th of 2014. And I just want to say this also. Throughout the trial, you may hear me say that he was murdered on that date. Somehow he survived for another 11 hours. But in my opinion, all the evidence is going to show that what killed him took place on the 18th, and he was just able to survive long enough into the next day. So on that date, July 18th of 2014, these two men, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, followed Danny all over town. Started at his house, followed him to the school where the little children were going to school.
That is so
Preschool
creepy.
where he dropped them off. Watched him drop those kids off. Followed him to the gym. Waited outside the gym for him. Followed him to his house. Pulled up in the driveway. Mr. Markel is talking on the telephone to someone, and he notices someone's coming into his driveway.
And by the way, this once again shows just like how ruthless Donna and her son can be. The fact that she sent two people that were armed and ready to kill where her grandchildren were. She's supposedly doing this for them because she wants them to come back to her. What if these two guys didn't even think through this and they just went, there he is, star shooting? She was willing to put these two kids that she's doing all of this for, once again, in harm's way, as long as she gets the end result that she wants.
And while he's talking on the phone and says something about needing to see who this is, he turns and looks in the direction, and this man, Sigfredo Garcia, is holding a revolver. And he points it at him, and you may hear testimony that there's some evidence that maybe he tried to, well, you know what you do in defense when somebody's going to hit you or whatever, you put your hands up. He saw this man pointing a gun similar to this at him. And in that instant, I cannot fathom how terrified he must have been when this man shot him, not one time, but twice. One of the shots is almost right between the eyes. He was brutally murdered by this man. This man, Luis Rivera, who you've heard them mention in the state's opening, traveled with this car. This is an actual picture of the car, and the state's going to show it to you. This is the Prius that they were traveling in. This is a surveillance photo that the investigators were able to find to know that it was a Prius that they were looking for. This man supplied the gun and drove the car following Danny, drove it up into the driveway less than 3 feet away from Mr. Markel, whose engine is still running, and he's on the phone. And he waits while this man kills him. He hears the shots. This guy, Mr. Garcia, runs back to the car where Mr. Rivera is in the driver's seat, and he's the getaway driver. Supplies the gun, knows what they're going there to do, kill him, and drive off. They drive off. The state can prove that about Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera. But they're not on trial here. Right? You heard they've already been on trial.
Right.
Then you're going to hear, as the state said, that they can prove that, everybody can see okay? They can prove that Katie Magbanawa, her name's Catherine, some people call her Katie, they can prove that she's the one who set it up. This is the father of Katie's children. This is his buddy that was recruited to go along on this trip to kill Danny. They can prove that she arranged these guys to do it and that she's the one who paid them the money.
So far, they are completely right about three people involved in this. Okay, so they are 3-0 at this current moment, but she's working her way towards, like, I'm guessing she's gonna say, and then Charlie's in on it too. They're passing these charges around to each other like a hot potato. It is insane. Like, they all are trying to get a deal here, and I think they even said like her son started cooperating against her, which is one of the craziest statements I've ever heard. He started cooperating against his mom, but they are just passing these charges back and forth. They're just ping-ponging them to each other to see who's gonna miss.
The money that was in stacks, stapled, $100 bills, all $100, well, there may have been something other than $100 bills, but each stack was $1,000, stapled together.
Soaking wet. Is she gonna mention that?
Testimony that that's exactly what.
Please tell me she's gonna say something about that. I'm sorry I'm pausing so much. Please tell me she is going to mention that the money was soaking wet. Do you care to comment on that? Like, your defendant was scrubbing money in a sink and she thought that that was gonna get her out of this.
He did with his money. He kept it and saved it for a long time. And you're probably gonna hear testimony that this happens on July 18th, and on July the 19th, Mr. Adelson, Charlie Adelson, which is her son, gave approximately between $130,000 and $138,000
Man.
that he had in his safe that he collected and stapled together. His money went to her, not Miss Adelson. They can prove and have that he paid her to get them to kill Danny Markell.
That's
what
four.
they can prove.
4-0.
And they've done it 1, 2, 3, 4 times.
This is the one time they're wrong, though.
This case is really a lot about theory and motive and not evidence. The state has a theory, and for the past 9 to 11 years, in fairness, probably 9 years, they have told the whole world that Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. They've told this story, and it's outrageous. It gets people's attention. It's made a lot of money for the media, interviews, specials. Some people in jury selection said they had watched these specials. Lawyers on there, investigators on there. They made a lot of money for the media, and it got big attention because this is outrageous, what happened. It is truly outrageous. But what's more outrageous is, without any evidence, only motive and theory, they put her at the top of this pyramid. She's the matriarch. She's the matriarch mastermind behind Danny being killed, and they don't have evidence of that. That's what's outrageous. It's outrageous that he got killed, but it's also outrageous that we're sitting here with a jury, and you're going to hear a lot of theory, a lot of motive, and a lot of what they believe the evidence means. They don't get to decide that. The evidence is what the evidence is, and I ask you to patiently sit here and really pay attention to all of the evidence that you hear, every witness that they put on, every piece of evidence that they present to you, all of it. Don't, for 1 second, I'm not asking you to ignore any of that. Please listen to all of it closely.
Yeah, I don't know if that's such a good idea. I don't know if she should be telling them to pay close attention to everything that's being said. I mean, she can't tell them not to. I get it. But the closer they pay attention, they're going to visibly see that Donna paid for all of this to happen. Like, she definitely did. And you can tell that they paid attention to all of it because she was found guilty on all charges by the end of this. But I'm not sure if this was a good call from her to tell them pay close attention.
Look for what they actually have as evidence that Mrs. Adelson planned, she planned Danny Markell's murder, that she engaged these men to kill him, and that she gave the money to her son,
Right.
to give to Katie to pay them.
Just because maybe she didn't give the money, that may be something that happened. Maybe she didn't, but she did pay. No, she paid Catherine. She put Catherine on the payroll after this, which would make no sense. Okay, I was gonna say maybe she didn't pay her son to give to like Catherine and like the two henchmen. She definitely gave the instruction, I'm tired of this guy, go handle it. I'm so sure that she at least did that much. But okay, she paid Catherine though. She put her on the payroll for no reason.
You won't find evidence of that. The evidence about the $3,000 a month, I have that here on this board. $3,000 a month. Charlie Adelson gave $2,000 a month, and he instructed his mother, for reasons you're going to learn in the trial, out of his business account to put her on payroll. She worked for him, and she paid that money.
No questions
It's
asked.
this man's money,
Apparently.
not Donna Adelson's. At the end of listening to all of the evidence, we're going to have an opportunity to make closing arguments. And the judge is then going to give you, well, he's going to give it before, he's going to give you all of the instructions on what it is that you have to decide. Did the state charge and then prove that Mrs. Adelson committed a conspiracy? Not one of the elements, all of the elements, proven by evidence, not theory, not motive. For each count, then solicitation, all the elements. So
They did.
while you're listening to the evidence, you don't know what those elements are, but think about what each thing it is that the state has alleged. She planned it. She got people to do it. She intended that he die.
Definitely.
That this woman wanted to take away the father of her grandchildren for the rest of their life because of relocation that happened a year ago and was done and over. And at the end of the case, because there's not going to be evidence that she did this, keep an open mind. Listen to all of it. We're going to ask you to find her not guilty of every single count. Thank you.
Thank
Wow.
you, Ms. Fulford. Mr. Zellman, if you could take down the
Really
easels of
threw the
the
Hail Mary out at the very end.
Is the state prepared to call its first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls James Dagger.
We're already getting into the first witness right after. I forgot how quickly like everything just keeps moving when it's not Daryl Brooks.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
You may take your seat. Please speak loudly and clearly for the jurors.
Okay, thank you so much to everybody for joining for another one. Okay, we're about to get into some testimony here. Let's see.
Yes, sir. Perfect. Thank you. Please say your name and spell your name.
My name is James Geiger, Geiger.
Sir, where do you live?
I live at 2122 Trae in Tallahassee.
How long have you lived at that residence?
It's getting pretty close to 50 years now, I think 48 or 49.
Wow.
I want to take you back to July 18th of 2024. Now I've got an ad on me. Do you recall something unusual that happened that day? I'm sorry, I said 2024. 2014, sir. You know what case we're here about. Do you remember what happened on that date?
Yes, I do.
All right, could you please tell our jurors how something unusual first got your attention?
It was a Friday morning, about 10:30. My wife and I were sitting in our living room looking out towards Trescott Drive, out to the street. And as we were sitting there, we were doing something with our iPads, and we heard a noise, a popping, loud sound, bang sound. and we immediately got up and walked to the front. We have a big picture window. Walked up to see if we could determine what had happened and where it had come from. We weren't sure it was to the right or to the left. And,
All right, let me pause you right there and show you a couple photographs that I have as marked as states 1, 2, and 3.
We're about to get into some pretty gruesome stuff, I'd imagine here, because he saw
Do you recognize
Dan.
these photographs,
yes,
sir?
I do.
Are these fair and accurate photographs of your residence at that time, as well as the view from the window you've described?
Yes, it's true.
Judge, at this time, I'd ask to admit 1 through 3 and publish.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
States 1 to 3 are admitted.
All right, we're gonna see some exhibits here. But yeah, he can actually testify probably to how gruesome like the scene was after he found him, because he was the one that actually discovered Dan after he got shot and called the police.
All right, sir, so if you could just explain, give me that pointer, please, what we're looking at in this photo, and I've got a pointer here, if that's of any assistance to you. Push the middle button, you get a red dot.
Oh boy, what are they gonna show? Oh, the house.
You don't have to use it. Oh, if you are going to use it, though, use it on the big screen, please, sir. All right, so just describe what we're looking at in this photo, states 1.
This is taken from Trescott Drive. The house on the right is my house, and the house on the left was Danny's house.
Okay, and the bay window that you've described,
Oh.
is that?
Oh, so Dan lives like directly next to him. I thought he was across the street or something, because I thought in the store, in the breakdown, they said it was across the street, but it doesn't really matter.
Okay, and the bay window that you've described, is that what is pictured in this portion of the photo right here? Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's correct.
Publish states 2, please. Sir, is this the view from that window?
Yes,
All
this
right.
is what I saw as I looked out.
Okay, and the driveway that we can see there on the right side of the window, is that Dan Markell's driveway?
Yes, it is.
All right, so you've described that something got your attention. Can we have states 3, please?
Well, as I mentioned, I wasn't sure where the noise had come from, and I
Right.
looked to the left and to the right, and as I looked to the right, there was a car that was rapidly backing out of the driveway and immediately headed down in that direction towards Benton Road. It caught my attention because it seemed to be going so fast. And I noticed what it looked like, and that caught my attention, although quite frankly, it was out of the corner of my eye. It appeared to be a Prius, a light-colored Prius, maybe silver or white.
Okay, so something got your attention. What
There it
was
is.
that?
Well, that was what got my attention, and then
Was the vehicle itself?
excuse me?
Was the vehicle itself, or some noise preceded you seeing the vehicle?
Well, initially, we had heard this loud noise, which we weren't exactly sure it was. It could have been a gunshot, we weren't sure. And then when I saw the car back out, that prompted me then to walk next door. There had been in the neighborhood a few break-ins, burglaries, and my first thought was that somebody was trying to break into the Markell house. And so I went out the front door and walked across over to Danny's house to see if anything had been damaged, maybe tried to be broken into the garage or something.
Yes, sir. When you looked out, you said you saw the car back out and then exit toward Benton Road. Would that be going this direction to the right of the photograph or toward the left of the photograph?
It would be towards the right.
Okay, so out this way. And you said you walked over there just to sort of look around, make sure everything was okay. What did you see?
As I approached his garage, I noticed that the garage door was open, his car was inside, and the motor was running. And so I thought then, well, I guess so much for a burglary. I don't think that's happened if Danny's there. So I turned around and walked back to my house.
Okay. What happened next?
After that, I can't tell you why, but I just stood at my front window and looked out and waited for a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4, up to 5. And for some reason, it just didn't quite seem right. Danny hadn't backed out, and I thought by this time he should have backed out of his driveway.
Dude, W neighbor, man. Having a neighbor like this where they understand what patterns make sense, like when it comes to what you do. He put so many of the pieces together. He didn't back out of the driveway. People pulled out of his driveway way too fast. That was weird. Like, Dan survived, I think they said 14 extra hours. He wouldn't have even made it that far if he hadn't discovered him and called the police like right away. So like he was actually trying to look out for Dan.
And so I said to my wife, I think something just seems wrong. I'm going to walk back over. And so I did that.
All right. And what did you see when you got over there?
Excuse me?
What did you see when you got over there the second time?
Well, when I went back the second time, I noticed that the garage door was still up, the car was still running. And this time I thought, maybe I better walk on into the garage. He's probably in the driver's seat. He's probably on the cell phone talking, but I just wanted to make sure everything was okay.
Yes,
and
sir.
so I walked
Right.
into the actual driveway then, and I saw that the window, the driver's side window, had been shattered, and I stepped on glass at that same time. As I looked inside, I saw a bloody head, and the head was slowly moving back and forth, rolling back and forth, left to right. And
Oh,
I
my
hollered
God.
immediately, "Danny, what happened?" And I didn't get any response other than the head rolling, and so I hollered again, Danny, what's happened?" Still nothing. And at that point, I knew that I had to get the emergency medical team there as quickly as I could. I reached into my pocket to pull out my cell phone, which is where I normally keep it, and it wasn't there. And I thought, gee, I've left it back on the couch at the house. And so I quickly dashed back to the house, got the phone, and called 911.
How many minutes do you estimate elapsed between the time you saw the Prius backing out, or really I should say the time you heard the loud bang, to the time that you were able to reach 911?
Less than 10 minutes, more than 5 minutes, somewhere in there, I would say.
Okay. This is gruesome, by the way. That is, oh my gosh. The movements, he was just,
I'm going to approach and show you what I've marked as state's exhibits 4, and then I also have 6 and 7. This is number 4, and I'll draw your attention to some initials on number 4, and then also 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recognize these photos?
Yes, I do.
All right, Judge, at this time, I'd ask to move into evidence 6 and 7.
Any objection?
No objection.
States 6 and 7 are admitted.
I'm getting more and more nervous here with each exhibit. I hope it's not like an image of him. I doubt that would happen though, right? Like they immediately got him out of there.
When you went over there and found Mr. Markel so badly injured.
Yes, that looks correct.
Publish State 7, please. Was the doors to the vehicle are open in this photograph? Were they open or closed when you went over?
No, they were all closed.
Okay, closed, and the only window that was damaged was that the driver's side window?
That's the only one I saw. That's if there were some others, I didn't look at any other windows. I just simply saw the driver's side that was completely shattered.
All right, yes, sir. And State's Exhibit 4, is this consistent with the type of vehicle that you observed in the driveway backing out that day?
Yes, it was, although I didn't quite see that angle.
Okay. Judge, at this time, I'd ask to introduce States 4.
Objection to States 4.
No objection.
Admitted at this time.
All right, and you described it as a light-colored Prius. You weren't exactly sure of the color, maybe white, maybe silver, right?
Yeah, silver came to mind first, I guess, but certainly a light-colored vehicle.
I'm going to approach and show you State's Exhibit 5. Recognize State's 5?
Yes,
Is that Mr. Markel?
yes it is.
All right, may I introduce State's 5, Your Honor?
No objection. States 5 is admitted.
Publishing States 5. What did you know about Mr. Markel?
Well, this occurred in 2014, and Danny and Wendy were newlyweds and had moved in about 5 years earlier than that. They moved next door. We were not particularly close to either one. We would see them occasionally out on the street. The memorable thing, and the other neighbors would tell you, is that when they first moved in, they had a housewarming event and they invited all the neighbors in, and we attended it. That was our first time to see them and visit them. They seemed like a nice young couple, and but after that we weren't particularly close.
Did they have a couple little children living there?
Well, when they first moved there, they didn't, but after a year or two, they had a first child and then later a second child.
All right, and at the time that Mr. Markel was shot, had his wife, Wendy, moved out? Had they separated?
Yeah, we had understood that they were going through a divorce. And Wendy had left, and after that, we rarely saw Danny, and I don't think we ever saw the kids either, but
Were you familiar with Mr. Markel's profession?
yes, I knew that he was an attorney. Both of them were, and they were connected with the FSU Law School, I believe, but I didn't know their exact positions there.
Yes, sir. Publish 4 again, please. Are you able to tell the jurors anything about the occupants of this vehicle on that day?
No, I only saw it just briefly, and to notice what kind of car it was. I couldn't tell you who was inside. The windows were dark as far as I could see. I didn't even know if it was 2-door or 4-door. I just didn't see anything like that.
During the time that you were present at the scene of the shooting, did Mr. Markel ever regain consciousness or ever say anything that you heard?
No, I never heard him say anything. The only notion was that his head kept rolling back and forth during the 911 call, which it took forever to try to get the emergency vehicle there, the emergency medical team. They would occasionally ask if he was still breathing. And I would walk back up into the garage and his head was moving still. And I said, well, his head's moving. So I assume he's still breathing.
Yes, sir. Have you had an opportunity to review that recorded call that you made to 911 that day?
Yes, I have.
All right. And was it a fair and accurate recording of that call?
Yes.
All right, Judge, at this time I'd ask to move into evidence States 88.
Any objection?
No objection.
States 88 is admitted.
May I
Oh
publish?
boy, we're gonna hear the phone call. The exact moment when he found them.
911, what's your emergency?
It's right next door at my house, which is 2122 Trescott Drive.
Can you repeat that for verification?
2122 Trescott Drive, the T.
Okay, the phone number you're calling from?
I'm calling from 850-21.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
We heard a loud bang and a car pulled away from next door. I came over and looked in, the garage door was up. And I thought the gentleman was backing out, and I went back to my house, but he never backed out. And I came back over, and his driver's side window was shattered, and he's spattered, and can't answer. He's inside. I don't know if somebody tried to shoot him or if he shot himself or what. I don't know.
And it was at this location, correct?
Right next door. I'll give you mine. I don't know his address. It's next door.
Okay.
He didn't send an ambulance in a hurry. EMG. He's still alive. He's moving.
Okay. What's going on with it?
I don't know. The driver's side window is all bashed in. He's inside. The car is running, and he's got blood all over his head. He's not responding to me. That number, by the way, is 2116.
All right, that's the first few minutes of a 14-minute call. Is that how long it took them to get somebody to you?
Seemed to me a lot longer,
Seemed like 14 hours, didn't it?
long time.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination for Mr. Geiger.
No question, Your Honor.
Mr. Geiger, you may step down, sir.
Wow. No cross exam.
Is he released from his subpoena? Will anyone need to recall him for any purpose?
He's released, Your Honor.
Have a good day, sir.
Yeah, that's.
Please call your
I'm
next
telling you.
witness.
State calls David Sims.
The intuition of a neighbor is so undefeated.
Please
Like,
approach.
same thing like I said in the Chris Watts case. The neighbor and his wife knew each other so well. Like, that's the thing is what, like, when they recognize your patterns and they know when something's off, they get the police, like, right away. This man found Dan within, like, 10 minutes and called the cops. Now, he wouldn't have survived, unfortunately, either way, but he gave him a fighting chance at least.
Please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth? I do. You may take your seat. Please speak loudly and clearly for the jurors.
This must be law enforcement or something, because I don't know who this could be.
Sir, please introduce yourself and spell your name.
David Sims, S-I-M-S.
How are you? Go ahead.
Retired sergeant from Tallahassee Police Department.
Okay.
How long
yeah.
were you with Tallahassee Police Department?
28 years.
Okay. And were you employed with them back in 2014?
Yes.
Did you respond to a scene in response to a 911 call 2116 Trescott Drive on July 18th of 2014?
Yes, I did.
Is that location in Leon County?
Yes, it is.
All right. And do you know what time you were dispatched to the call?
I was not dispatched. I was actually at the station working on paperwork, and I heard the call go out, so I just responded.
Okay. And were you the first or?
First on scene.
You were first on scene.
Yes.
And did you make contact with Mr. Geiger, the neighbor?
Yes, I did.
And did Mr. Geiger indicate something going on in the garage next door to his residence?
Yeah, he said his neighbor, he thinks it was his neighbor in there, and he heard a loud noise, and there was broken glass in his car.
All right, I'm gonna publish states 7, please. That's in, right? Has the vehicle been moved from the position it was in when you first arrived?
No,
Okay, other than the doors being opened, right?
correct.
Okay. When you got there, was the vehicle running?
Yes, it was.
All right, what did you do when you first arrived and observed the vehicle?
I walked up to the driver's side window. Mr. Geiger had told me that the homeowner's name was Daniel, and I saw someone in the car, and I spoke his name and said Daniel. There was no response, and I got a little closer and found that the driver's side window was broken kind of at an angle. Some of the glass was in, some had come out, but there was also a small rounded spot in that glass that was still in there. I said Daniel again, no response. He was slumped over and kind of gasping for air, and it was just a sucking sound. I noticed that he had a set of eyeglasses. Half of a set of eyeglasses was laying in his lap. He had a cell phone in his left hand. He had a business card in his right hand. I walked around to the other side of the car. Well, first I reached in and unlocked the door, and I went around to the other side, and I opened the door and reached in and shut off the car, so the car wasn't still running. And then I noticed the other half of the eyeglasses laying on the floorboard of the car. I
Let me
removed
pause you there and approach and show you what I marked as states 8 through 10. Are these 3 photographs fair and accurate representations of how the vehicle appeared that day?
Yes.
Judge, I'd ask to introduce states 8 through 10. No objection.
States 8 through 10 are admitted.
Publish 8, please. All right,
Oh, I see it.
Got a pointer.
That circular hole that he mentioned,
That's the way the window was.
Part of it had broken out, part of it was still intact, but right there looked like a little rounded area.
All right, and was this large void that we see in the window there before the door was opened?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you said you were able to reach in and unlock.
Yeah, I reached in, the door was closed, I reached in through that broken area, unlocked the car, and then ran around and entered from the other side to turn off the car and pull out the keys.
All right, and during this time, was EMS already en route?
Yeah, I could hear them coming down the street. They were almost there.
Okay, and were life-saving efforts made to try to help Mr. Markel?
Yes, when I was on the passenger side, I pulled out a gym bag or something that was in there and pulled it out and set it on the ground so they could make better entry into the vehicle to extract him.
Okay. And did he ever regain consciousness or say anything during the time you were
Not
there?
in my presence.
All right. Publish 9, please. All right. Do you see the half part of the eyeglasses there in that photograph?
Yes.
Could you indicate with your pointer?
Yeah, right there.
And is that where you observed them, or had they fallen out?
They had fallen out. One was in his lap, and then one was on the floorboard on the driver's side.
All right. And what about the cell phone that we see pictured to the left of the eyeglasses?
That was in his left hand.
Oh my gosh, man. The fact he survived an extra 14 hours, like, it is wild when you hear it. They shot him twice. Man. And he survived the extra 14 hours after that. And like, all I'm seeing right now are half of his glasses on the ground with some droplets of blood. And it's tough to even look at that part of it. Just based on what they're describing, you can vividly see everything that he's describing right now. And I'm talking a lot right now because I'm scared to hear what's next. Okay, let's do it.
Was there a safety search done of the house?
Yes, after EMS was removing him, then myself and a couple other officers, we took the keys that were in the car. The person door from the garage into the house was locked. We unlocked that, did a search of the house, found no one, nothing amiss.
Any indication that this was a burglary, a robbery?
No.
That makes it
Any
even more
signs of a
suspicious.
struggle?
No.
No further questions.
Cross-examination for Mr. Sims. You may step down, Mr. Sims.
Wow,
This
no
is
cross-exam.
released, Your Honor.
Thank you.
No
Please call your
cross-exam
next
there.
witness.
Joanne Maltese.
And the messed up part is, the details are only going to get more gruesome from here. Like, this is my first time reacting to a trial about what happened to Dan Markel. I'm sure in the I think his name Charlie Adelson one, that one must have been really brutal, because he was the one that paid for the hit to happen. But I'm sure they're going to show a lot of the same details in this one too. So we're going to get into the coroner's report, I'm sure.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
You may take your seat. Please speak loudly and clearly for the jurors.
Please introduce yourself and spell your name.
My name is Joanne Maltese. Joanne, Joanne, and Maltese, Maltese.
Are you employed, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Are you employed as law enforcement, in law enforcement?
I am retired Tallahassee Police Forensic Specialist.
How long have you been retired from, it's Tallahassee Police Department, right?
Yes, a little over 8 years.
What were your duties when you were...
I was just going to say, that must be a wild situation to be in when you're retired, but you still have to semi-work. Because the officer before, he was retired too, but he has to come back to keep testifying, I guess, until all his cases are resolved. So, weird situation to be in. I never thought about that.
Maltese, Maltese.
Are you employed, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Are you employed as law enforcement, in law enforcement?
I am retired Tallahassee Police Forensic Specialist.
How long have you been retired from, it's Tallahassee Police Department, right?
Yes, a little over 8 years.
What were your duties when you were employed there?
Duties as a forensic specialist is the documentation, collection, and preservation of evidence at a crime scene.
How long did you do that type of work?
Done that work for probably 15 years.
Okay. And were you doing it back on July 18th of 2014?
Yes.
As part of your job, did you respond to 2116 Trescott Drive on that date?
Yes, I did.
All right. And what was your job once you arrived at that particular scene?
That particular day, I was called to document and collect evidence at a crime scene.
Publish 10, please. Is this the scene that you're referencing?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm going to approach and show you states 11 through 17 as well. Just have you look through those and tell me if you recognize them.
And we haven't seen the inside of the car yet. That's the one thing too.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize them?
I took these photographs at the scene.
All right, Judge, at this time, I'd ask to move into evidence states 11 through 17.
11 through 17 are admitted.
Publish 11, please. Publish 12, please. Did you collect the eyeglasses shown in State's Exhibit 12?
Yes, I did.
Like the glasses are perfectly broken in half. It's just like they
One
described.
crispy
Like
half of a pair of eyeglasses. Did you collect both halves?
Yes, I did.
I'll show you what I've marked as states 121 and 122. Do you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
Are those the two halves of eyeglasses collected from this crime scene?
Yes, they are.
Judge, at this time, I'd ask to move into evidence states 122 and 123.
Any objection?
There you are.
States 122 and 123 are admitted.
Publish the next exhibit, please. Did you collect this eyeglass lens?
Yes, I did.
Where was it located?
I believe that one was the floorboard of the driver's area.
Was there another piece of eyeglass lens also collected by
Yes,
you
there
that
was.
day?
Yes, there was.
Okay, where was that piece found?
That was, the other optical was on the driveway, or I'm sorry, the garage floor right below the driver's area.
Showing you 123 and 124. Are these the two pieces of lens that you collected that day?
Yes.
Move into evidence 123 and 124.
Any objection? There you are. States 123 and 124 are admitted.
Did you take any swabs or attempt to get any fingerprints from the scene?
Yes, I did.
And what efforts were made on those fronts?
I processed the entire exterior of the vehicle for fingerprints. There was an area that was lifted, but it did not have fingerprints of value to compare. As far as the swabbing, all of the exterior and interior door handles, as well as a phone that was collected. And
I'm sorry, she said a part was lifted. So wait, hold on 1 second.
I processed the entire exterior of the vehicle for fingerprints. There was an area that was lifted, but it did not have fingerprints of value to compare. As far as the swabbing, all of the exterior and interior door handles, as well as a phone that was collected, and the doorknob from the garage to the interior of the house.
And what were the results of those efforts?
Those I would not know. It'd be sent to FDLE lab for analysis.
Did you find any fingerprints of value to send to FDLE lab?
No, I did not.
Maybe that was the police officer's fingerprints because she said an area was lifted on the exterior,
14, please.
or even the neighbor. Because I doubt he touched the car, Garcia.
Approaching with states 125. Do you recognize 125?
Yes, I do.
What is this item?
This is going to be a brown wallet with its contents that were found in the glove box of the vehicle.
All right, and did the wallet contain Dan Markel's driver's license?
Yes, it did.
And in the exhibit, there's no cash, but there's some cash pictured in the photograph.
Yes.
Was there cash that was seized as well?
Yes, there was.
All right, so based on this, didn't appear there was any effort to take Mr. Markel's belongings.
Correct.
Okay, any evidence that the house was broken into or anything was taken from the house?
Not that I could determine.
Published states 6.
That's a good point. Wallet was not touched, did not even attempt to enter the house. You'd have to assume they only showed up there for him. Just based on those two things alone. Even the car, like, it doesn't look like anything was touched other than the officer, like, taking out his gym bag.
And 17. And then back to 16, if you would. What efforts were made to document this? What is it that we're looking at?
We're looking at the front driver's door window that was shattered with a hole in it.
Okay. And what did you do to try to document this?
The glass was very fragile because it was broken, so prior to doing anything to it besides fingerprinting, I would have put clear tape on both sides, the interior and the exterior, just to hold it in place for transportation and collection.
I'm approaching with what I've marked as states 126. Is this the glass that you were able to remove from the vehicle?
Yes.
Is it in the same or substantially the same condition as when you seized it?
Yes.
Move into evidence, states 126.
Any objection? No, Your Honor. States 126 is
Wow, they were able to preserve like the glass in that shape, apparently.
The glass evidence, is that consistent with a gunshot?
Yes, it is.
All right, did you, as part of your job, have an occasion to photograph Wendy Adelson's vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Was that done the same day that you collected this other evidence?
Yes, it was.
Where did you photograph her vehicle?
Her vehicle was towed to the Tallahassee Police Department.
I'm going to approach and show you what I've marked as states exhibits 18 through 21. Do you recognize 18 through 21?
Yes, I do.
Are those the photos you took of Ms. Adelson's vehicle?
Yes.
Move into evidence 18 through 21.
Any objection? No, Your Honor. States 18 through 21 is admitted.
Publish states 18, please. Publish 19. Publish 20. What is this item?
This was on the front passenger seat of the vehicle, and it is a bottle of alcohol and a receipt.
All right, and did you take a closer photo of the receipt? States 21, please.
Yes.
And what does that show about when the alcohol was purchased?
On 7/18 of 2014 at 12:49 from ABC Fine Liquor and Spirits, or Fine Wine and Spirits.
And they said this is Wendy's car?
Did you also go to the hospital?
Yes, I did.
What were you asked to do at the hospital?
Document and collect any evidence.
At the time that you responded to the hospital, was Mr. Markel deceased or still alive?
He was still alive.
I'm going to approach and show you what I've marked as states exhibits 22 through 24. Do you recognize these exhibits?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize them?
I took those photographs at the hospital.
Are they fair and accurate photos of how Mr. Markel looked that day?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Move into evidence, states exhibits 22, 23, and 24, Your Honor.
Any objection? No, Your Honor. States 22, 23, and 24 are admitted.
Publish 22, please. This is how Mr. Markel appeared,
Yes.
and this was done on the 18th.
Yes. Yes.
Publish the next exhibit, please. This is 23. Why did you take this photograph?
For the darkened area on his forearm.
Why was that of significance?
That is consistent with stippling.
What is stippling?
Stippling is being
Oh
close
my goodness,
contact
she's getting
to
choked
a
up now.
firearm that was discharged, and it's going to be the unburnt.
Now she's getting choked up. She literally hired these guys to do this to him. But now all of a sudden she's crying for him. And I'm only getting mad because you know for a fact that after she heard this happen, her and her son were like celebrating on the phone. It's no way they weren't. It's literally what she wanted. There's no way they didn't celebrate upon hearing the news that he wasn't going to make it. But now all of a sudden she's crying. I'm glad they didn't show the picture either.
This is 23. Why did you take this photograph?
For the darkened area on his forearm.
Why was that of significance?
That is consistent with stippling.
What is stippling?
Stippling is being close contact to a firearm that was discharged, and it's going to be the unburnt gunpowder and gases that leave the barrel of a gun at a high velocity, and it will tattoo or stain the skin.
State's Exhibit 24, please. Is this another effort to capture that stippling that you observed?
Yes.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
No questions, Your Honor.
Very well. Ms. Maltese, you may step down.
Those must be the burns when they describe like he put his arms up to block it.
Please call your next witness.
The state calls Dr. Clark.
Unbelievable. Honestly, I feel like the only reason she's crying right now is because she has to see somebody in that state. I don't even think it's because of who he is or who it is. It's just the shock of seeing, because she didn't pull the trigger like they said, but she did send them to do this. I feel like that's the only reason she's crying. It's not because, oh, that's my son-in-law up
Please raise
there.
your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
You may take your seat.
Thank you.
Please speak
Okay.
loudly and clearly.
These are probably all going to be law enforcement because the neighbor was
Sir,
like,
please introduce yourself and spell your name.
I'm Dr. Anthony J. Clark, A-N-T-H-O-N-Y, J. Clark, C-L-A-R-K.
How are you employed?
I'm currently employed as Associate Medical Examiner for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Division of Forensic Science in the Central Regional Office in Macon, Georgia.
What are your
Okay.
duties there?
I work as an Associate Medical Examiner. I perform what's called the autopsy and forensic autopsies and death investigations.
Was there ever a time that you worked here in Tallahassee as an assistant medical examiner?
Yes.
What time periods did you do that?
It was from 2007 to 2023.
All right. And how many autopsies have you performed during the course of your career?
It's over 8,000 now.
And what is the education and training that you have that qualifies you to do that type of work?
I obtained my Bachelor of Science degree from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I did 2 years of animal research before moving on to Jefferson Medical College in Philadelphia. I graduated from the college and then traveled over to New Britain General Hospital in New Britain, Connecticut, and did a 2-year general surgical internship. I then went to the Hartford Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut, and did 4 years of anatomic and clinical pathology. I then traveled from that program down to Atlanta, Georgia, where I did a 2-year forensic pathology fellowship at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office in association with Emory University. I am board certified in anatomic and forensic pathology. I have medical licensures both in the state of Georgia and Florida.
he is beyond qualified. He's very qualified. 8,000 procedures he's done. That is 8,000 victims from various crimes that he has had to witness. I could not imagine.
Have you ever testified as an expert in the area of forensic pathology?
Yes, I have.
How many times?
Several hundred times.
Tender Dr. Clark as an expert in the area of forensic pathology, Your Honor.
Does the defense wish to indict the witness?
No, Your Honor.
Is there any challenge to his ability to provide an opinion?
No, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, the witness will be permitted to testify before you today in the form of an opinion in the fields of both medicine and forensic pathology. You may continue.
Doctor, did you conduct the autopsy of Dan Markell?
Yes, I did.
When was that conducted?
We performed it on July 19, 2014, and we started at 11:55 hours.
Where was the autopsy conducted?
At that time, we were in the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital morgue.
Did you take photos as part of your autopsy?
Yes, I did.
Would use of those photos assist you in your testimony?
Yes, they would.
Would they assist the jury in understanding your testimony?
Yes, they would.
Approaching the states 25 through 34. Take a moment to look through those and let me know if you recognize them.
Yes, ma'am.
Are they fair and accurate photographs that were taken during the autopsy of Mr. Markell?
Yes, they are.
Moving to evidence, states 25 through 34, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
States 25 through 34 admitted at this time.
Publish 25, please.
Before you publish, if the parties can briefly approach.
Yes.
A brief break before we continue with the examination of Dr. Clark. The bailiff will take you to the jury room.
All right. I wonder if something happened or if it's actually like just a scheduled break or something. I'm going to go ahead and skip over to when everybody comes back.
State, you may resume with your examination of Dr. Clark at this time.
All right.
Publishing 25. And doctor, you should have a pointer. All right, explain what we're looking at in States 25.
As part of the examination, particularly in gunshot wounds, we like to know whether the bullets are still in the body or how badly they are broken up, etc. So we do X-rays, and this is an X-ray of the head.
Oh my God.
You can see the top of the head here, the jaw, right side, left side, and these really bright spots here and here are the bullets that we recovered from this individual. They come out because they're very dense. The X-rays bounce off and turn them white here, just like bone. It's fairly dense. These are the bullets here, here, and here.
Published States 26, please. How many bullets were in Mr. Markel's head?
There were 2 bullets in his head, and you can see on this one here that hit the left cheek, actually fragmented a little bit. And then we had a bullet inside the head, back to the left side. The right side, excuse me, right side.
States 27. What are we looking at here, doctor?
This is actually the identification photograph of the individual. We like to get them cleaned up. We'll put the identifying tag underneath their chin, the case number, the date, and usually my initials. And you can see that there has been quite a bit of damage here, particularly in the left side of the face. We have a gunshot wound here that's labeled number 1 in the autopsy report, and this is number 2, labeled number 2 in the autopsy report.
By labeling them 1 and 2 respectively, are you opining that that's the order in which those shots were fired?
No, the numbering system in the autopsy report is just for me to discuss during the trial.
Published 28, please. What does 28?
Do you see she's taking like these little glances at it? She can't even look at it. Her and her son paid for this to happen to him. And now all of a sudden it's too much to see. Like when they just were as far away from it, like she described, the chain of command, the train cars, they're so far away from it. They just get the news that, okay, it's been done. He's gone now. And I'm sure, like I said, they celebrated. That little bottle of alcohol that they had this is probably a stretch. I wouldn't be surprised if they purchased it to celebrate. Honestly, the gruesome nature of what she paid to happen is too much all of a sudden. Dude, that is ridiculous.
So this is what I call gunshot wound number 2. And you can see it's quite irregular. It's not a nice round hole you'd like to see. But the way it hit the bone, it caused a lot of damage and tearing in this area here. You can see that there's some what we call raccoon eyes or hemorrhage around the eyes and quite a bit of swelling going on here. Also in this area here, you see a lot of minor superficial abrasions that vary in size. Some are much bigger and some are much smaller. You can see it's all over the cheek here, so, and the ear and the side of the neck here. This is what we call pseudo-stippling, and this usually happens after the bullet goes through a door or a window or hits concrete and causes those items, the glass or the wood or the concrete, to splinter and cause small particles to fall out, to shoot out and hit the individual's skin. So this isn't true stippling, which is due to gunpowder, and we'll see an example of that in a minute. But so we have large areas of pseudo-stippling around the left side of the face and left side of the neck and ear.
So each of those small red injuries represents a piece of glass striking?
Piece of glass, yes ma'am, or part of the bullet that fragmented off the main part of the bullet.
States 29, please. What does this one show?
Again, we're looking at the left side of the neck here. Here's the left ear. You can see that this pseudo-stippling is quite extensive. Also, you'll see that there's kind of a purplish discoloration here. Because of where the bullet track went to, it caused a large amount of bleeding into the left side of the face, where you saw that huge distortion of the left side of the face, and then drained down into the neck.
States 30.
Okay, this is going to be gunshot wound number 1. It's right between the eyebrows, closer to the left eyebrow. Again, it is distorted. It's not a nice little round hole because of the shelf of bone that's there. It's called a glabella. So it causes an irregular entry wound. And now we're seeing a much finer area of stippling across the forehead here. This is much different from what we're seeing on the left side of the face. This is true stippling or gunpowder stippling from the barrel of the gun directly.
How does firing a gun cause this pseudo-stippling?
The stippling.
Stippling.
Okay, when the firearm is discharged, out of the barrel comes the bullet, of course, hot gases, soot, burning and unburnt gunpowder. What causes the stippling is the burning and unburnt gunpowder. It actually it's a particulate that strikes the skin and abrades it. It doesn't burn it, but it hits it and abrades it, or scrapes it. So that usually with a handgun, we could see the stippling out to about 18 to 24 inches. This to me looks a lot closer than that, but all we're seeing is the stippling here.
So the presence of this evidence suggests that the muzzle of the gun was quite close to Mr. Markel's head when it was fired.
Yes, I'm thinking inches. Yes, ma'am.
States 31, please. What does this show?
Okay, this is giving you a perspective of the 2 gunshot wounds here. What I call labels 1, what is label 2, the pseudo stippling on the nose, the fine stippling on the forehead, the hemorrhage around the left eye, part of the raccoon eye pattern.
States Exhibit 32.
This is the left forearm, and what you see here is kind of a ring of soot, partial ring of soot here, and some stippling on the forearm here too.
What is that consistent with?
That to me is suggested that that arm was up near the gun when it was discharged. That's at one point in time, and most likely the one gunshot wound that went to the center of the head here, that arm was up in a defensive type thing or a reaction type thing, and the soot and stippling is actually not from the barrel, but when you're talking about a revolver, you have a cylinder where the bullets are, you have a space between the cylinder and the barrel. It's called a cylinder gap. And soot and gunpowder can come out of the cylinder gap and cause this kind of pattern.
So again, consistent with the firearm being very close to the victim?
That's correct.
And also
Literally
is it consistent
inches.
with the victim at least having enough wherewithal of the impending danger to raise his arm in defense?
In my opinion, yes, ma'am.
Right, and you said that the number that you order the shots for purposes of your reports does not necessarily mean that's the order of the shots that were fired in this case. Do you have an opinion as to which shots were fired in what order?
Yes, after discussions with the investigators and looking at the scene photographs, the first shot went through the closed car window. So the first shot would have been to the left cheek area, which traveled from the left cheek just before the left ear, hitting soft tissues, fracturing the jaw, fracturing the left cheekbone. Again, this is maybe slightly incapacitating, maybe stunned him, but would not immediately put his lights out. Okay, so that is where all the pseudo stippling is coming from that glass shattering. Glass is not there anymore. The second shot is to the forehead, where the actual gunpowder can strike the skin, and the hand was raised somehow into the vicinity of that cylinder gap.
Oh my goodness, man. I thought the first shot would have been like the one between the eyes because he was looking directly at him probably, but that is just so much more, that is so much darker. And he even said the first shot wouldn't have put his lights out. And okay, so that confirms it too. He knew in that moment. I mean, it pretty much was confirmed anyway. They said he put his arms up, but he's just confirmed like the dark spots we saw in his arms meant that he did raise his arms before it happened. Okay.
And that's the second shot is the one that was not survivable?
That's correct.
And was there any amount of medical attention that could have assisted Mr. Markel, say if it had gotten there sooner?
Well, these are pretty devastating injuries, particularly the gunshot wound in the brain.
Did you collect the projectiles from Mr. Markel's head?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to show you States Exhibit 127 and 128. If you will publish 33, please. Ask if you recognize 127 and 128.
She's over there hyperventilating about this.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize those?
These are the envelopes that we placed these bullets in with the identifying marker labels and where they were from. Both one's from gunshot wound number 1 and one's from gunshot wound number 2.
Are they in the same or substantially the same condition as when you collected them?
They appear to be so, yes, ma'am.
Move into evidence 127 and 128, Your Honor.
There you go. States 127 and 128 are admitted.
And is this a photograph of one of these projectiles removed from Mr. Markel's head?
Yes, ma'am. This is the one from gunshot wound number 2 to the left cheek area. If you remember on the x-ray, it had kind of a barrel shape to it. I don't remember, but you see the barrel shape here.
And for the record, that was 33, now publishing 34. What does this show?
This
Would
is
you be able to turn it upper left, maybe? Again. Thank you. What does
this is the bullet that we pulled from the right side of the brain. And the X-ray is getting a little pretty deformed. You can see that we take one picture, one aspect of it here. Here's the identifying label.
What is meant by the term cause of death?
That is how that person died.
All right, and is it part of your job as assistant medical examiner to determine a cause of death?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you able to do that in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the cause of death?
Got gunshot wounds of the face and head.
And what about manner of death? What's meant by that term?
Manner of death is how what were the circumstances that eventually led to the death.
And do you have an opinion as to the manner of death?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
Homicide.
No further questions.
Cross-examination of Dr. Clark.
No, Your Honor.
Judge, this witness can be excused, and this might be a good time to take our lunch recess.
Oh my goodness.
Dr. Clark, you may step down, sir. Have a good day.
I literally could tell what her like attorney next to her was saying. Like I couldn't make it out fully, but she literally said, "There, you see, it's all done now." I know I keep repeating myself, but it blows my mind. She pretty much wanted this to happen, but now it's a little bit too real because she's seeing what it looked like after the fact. When you read the emails that she was sending back and forth with Wendy, she hated him. Jeez. All right, let's see what witness is next.
Members of the jury, we are going to take our lunch break at this point. As you have been previously instructed, I'm just going to remind you again, you are not to discuss this case with each other or any other person. During your lunch break, you may eat together if you choose to. Again, you may converse about any manner of things, but this case. Does everyone understand this instruction? Please raise your hands. And for the record, the jurors have raised their hands. Please return at 1:15. Enjoy your lunch break.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to call this one here. Man, this was a crazy start. Like the entire opening statements, like I said, if you're a member of the jury and you hear that, like if you compare what the prosecution said and with what the defense showed, I know they have to look at the evidence. Like they have to take that into consideration. But you already know based on that much, like, yeah, you definitely did this. Like, you 1000% were a part of it. But we're gonna see what other witnesses they bring up here. Thank you so much for joining me for yet another crazy trial, crazy true crime story. Let me know in the comments what you all think. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you did something good for somebody today. Hope somebody did something good for you. And I will catch you all in the next one.